May I have your attention? May I please have your attention? Super Sundays. Yeah, baby. We're back at it again. Let's get it.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Let's get it. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Sir Hill Speaks Super Sundays. I'm glad that you're here. I wanted to take a moment to tell you guys how much I appreciate you. We've been doing these shows for months now, and you guys have been showing up consistently as we take on and we tackle different challenges and different topics. So I appreciate it. But here's what we're trying to do going forward. We want to grow this audience to people who need to hear content like this. And so we need your help. How can you help us? That's a fantastic question. Be sure to make sure you hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe and make sure you hit that notification bell for all of the content that we have, particularly Super Sundays. All right, guys, sit back, relax, enjoy. Make sure you invite somebody to Sir Hill Speak Super Sundays. We're getting ready to go in. We're going to have a good time. Happy Sunday, everybody. Let's get to the show.
Go dummy, go beast, oh no. I go beast, go deep, I OG, oh no. I OD. Apply pressure, put heat, oh no. Put that 5 0 degrees, oh no. 500 degrees. Go dummy, go beast, oh no. I go beast, go deep, I OD, oh no. I OD. Apply pressure, put heat, oh no. Put that 5 0 degrees, oh no. 500 degrees. Down, levitate, going up, elevate. Watch me demonstrate, on time, never late. I grind, celebrate, no pump fake, hesitate. I've been scoring every day, champagne Perrier. Since 9-3, been in the box, now I'm stepping up to home. Like straight out the sandlot, now I'm plotting on the globe. I work hard, I show love, that calm and steady grind. Got this far, I go hard, let God take control. I was starving skinny, now my weight up, got no energy for haters. See you trying, see you later. I'm shooting for the stars, need no laser beam, blowing like the greatest, but it's one who's always greater. Yo, go dummy, go beast, oh no. I go beast, go deep, I OD, oh no. I OD. Apply pressure, put heat, oh no. Put that 5 0 degrees, oh no. 500 degrees. Go dummy, go beast, oh no. I go beast, go deep, I OD, oh no. I OD. Apply pressure, put heat, oh no. Put that 5 0 degrees, oh no. 500 degrees. Smile good, skin clear. This here my year. Hey, look up here. This here my tier. Same fit 4 days. I grind 4 ways. I play no games. All me, no blame. On the wave, my own wave. Can't stop my shine. In the lane, my own lane. Can't stop my grind. 40 yard in the V12 like 1.5. At 19, I cleared 19 in a month, no lie. Oh God. I was starving skinny, now my weight up, got no energy for haters. See you trying, see you later. I'm shooting for the stars, need no laser beam, blowing like the greatest, but it's one who's always greater. Yo, go dummy, go beast, oh no. I go beast, go deep, I OD, oh no. I OD. Apply pressure, put heat, oh no. Put that 5 0 degrees, oh no. 500 degrees. Go dummy, go beast, oh no. I go beast, go deep, I OD, oh no. I OD. Apply pressure, put heat, oh no. Put that 5 0 degrees, oh no. 500 degrees.
Young is coming to you live from a place where nobody else know to take it. They hand out, they want us to split the pie, right? Cause they realize that we gone crazy. Yeah, I flip my pie, really did that 180. Yeah, skirt. I flip my pie, really did that 180. Young is coming to you live from a place where nobody else know to take it. They hand out, they want us to split the pie, right? Cause they realize that we gone crazy. Yeah, I flip my pie, really did that 180. Yeah, skirt. I flip my pie, really did that 180.
Who's that gon' tell me I can't do it? Better be on time with my bankroll. Talk fat, no ball cat, no lit word. Routine like clockwork, my wrist word.
Let's go like that. I flourish the cook, got no roof on it. I'm taunting, I'm all in the moment. Everything lit, I don't miss. Till someone get John on the line, say the invoice is coming. I'm thumbing through stacks of that cold ball. They egging me on, so I'm going off. I got them mad, I show off. They treating my life like it's no law. I never flex above my means. I spit the cream on my tribe, don't I? Don't bro me, don't know me, you not regime. To the one with the condom, my eye is on it. Yeah. I see you move through the base, they precaution, they snaking, they seeing me. Money tree, wake up the royalties. I got a queen, yeah, she go with me. She making me feel like I'm royalty. It's probably cause we royalty. I just got fresh with the golden piece. Shrug, show the emoji, okay. You know it's me, diamond soul, dancing, singing like Jodeci. 10 out of 10 every time till they notice me. What you thought I was supposed to be. Ain't nobody close to me. Granted, my hits touch the billboards, and they printing my face on the billboard. They envy my drip, I'm enlightened. You should let go of that hate, but you feel more. I make them rage every time they get flame when they hear what I say, coming straight from the source, yeah. I come a long way from the coast by the shore. My boy, I'm enjoying this time. Young niggas coming to you live from a place where nobody else know to take it. They hand up, they want us to split the pie, right? Cause they realize that we going crazy. Yeah, I flip my pie, really did that 180. Yeah. I flip my pie, really did that 180.
Who's that gon' tell me I can't do? Better be on time with my bankroll. Talk fat, no ball, can't
And now, your host, Sir Hill Speaks. Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on with you? Welcome to another edition of Sir Hill Speaks. It is good to see everybody in the building. What's going on with you? I'm glad that you guys are here. If you guys can hear me loudly and clearly, signal that to me in the chat by putting a 1 in the chat. Let me know that you guys can hear me clearly and that you guys can see me as well. We want to make sure that we produce a great show tonight, and I want to give you the highest quality possible. So if you guys can hear me and see me, let me know in the chat. Excellent. Take heed. I see you. The Quiet Storm. I see you, Lady Navoa. I see you, Miss She said, Corey. I see you in the building. Lady Navoa, what's going on with you? Salute to the chat. Glad to see you all here tonight. We are in for a fantastic show. So do me a favor. You guys know that we're picking up the pace again and we're doing more shows. So you guys can help us to build the audience by sharing this stream. First, the second thing is hit that like button and tell other people to participate in the conversation. So while we respect those who are watching in the cloud, shout out to y'all. We see y'all watching in the cloud. Shout out to Quiet Storm. Make sure you guys participate and ask your questions as well. We want to make sure that you guys get as much out of this as we're going to get out of this as well. Right? So you guys see the premise of the show tonight. We're talking about in 2023, there's a price to conflict. And we're going to be investigating that some. And to do this, I've got some wonderful guests, some very intelligent thinkers who are going to share their perspective tonight. I'm really glad that they are here. If you guys are ready for a fantastic show, everybody just type "I'm ready" in the comments. If you're ready for a dope show, just type "I'm ready" in the comments. I want to make sure that our guests feel welcome and that we set this show off to the right start. If you guys are ready, just type "I'm ready." I don't see nobody ready yet. Dang. I was hoping to see something right now. Dang. I need to wake up. It's sunny now. Wake up, y'all. Y'all ready for this? I see you in there. I see you. All right, bring it to the stage first. The one and the only, my brother. He's back in the building. An Intellect. Lost in Translation podcast is back for another episode, ready to share a fresh perspective. He's in the building. Show your love to the one and the only. Lost in Translation. He's in the building. Salute my brother.
Having me this evening, sir.
What's up, man? Good to see you, brother. How are you?
I'm well. I saw the lightning flash, and I heard the thunder roll. So if the lights go out, y'all know what's happening. I got the candles in the back ready to go. We're gonna continue this thing.
Y'all know what time it is. Hey, man, a salute to you as well. Before we call up the next guest, you did a really interesting show on Friday. If you can, just take a couple seconds to let us know what that show was about. And to those of you who are in the chat, be sure to go follow this great brother. He's a content creator, a really great thinker. He did a wonderful show. I wanted to give a little perspective, and I want us to make sure that we support him as well. It's on you.
Great. The show that I did this past Friday was called "Are You a Man or Are You a Mouse?" Basically, what we did was we studied nurture versus nature and the study of epigenetics and how past trauma and present trauma could affect people in different ways and how they can be triggered. So what we did was we did a few different articles, a few different experiments from mice, and show how they were experiencing trauma, even though they weren't introduced to the trauma. And sometimes as people, we can be subject to trauma that we have no idea that we're experienced or we're exposed to until that trigger has been released. So if you guys get a chance, go in and watch that. It's not very long. I probably, try to keep my podcast about 30 minutes and we'll give you your day back. But I did, for those who would like to do a little bit more research, I did put the links for my research in the comment section and in the description. So if you want to delve deep into that, you're most certainly welcome to do so. Thank you, sir.
Awesome, my brother. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. Be sure to show some love to Lost in Translation podcast. Solid brother. I want you guys to benefit from his wisdom as well. Bringing to the stage next is my brother from another mother. This is a really true guy. I really respect him. I really appreciate him. Shout out to I Sing Your Little podcast. I met him, a good brother, good content creator. I met this brother through him. So I got to give a shout out to Beans, got to give a shout out to a podcast and that crew over there. To bring it to the stage now is the one and the only Reckless Ray. He is back this week again to share more perspective on this topic as well. Everybody in the chat, show your love for the one and the only Reckless Ray. He is in the building. Salute, brethren.
I'm promising to give 10 minutes of peace before I start taking necks. Shout out to the chat, shout out to the panel. Happy to be here. I like to be a little bit of the oddball. I'm a little oddball here, but it's all in love.
If you guys are ready to hear Ray, everybody just type Ray in the chat. I think they want to hear what you got to say, my brother. I'm glad that you're here. All right, guys, this show ain't the same way if we don't have lovely ladies to grace the panel and give their perspective as well. So bring to the stage first, y'all know who it is. It's the one and the only beautifully animated Speaks. She's in the building all the way from the southern states to give her perspective to the world. She's in here. Y'all show your love for the one and the only beautifully animated Speaks is in the building. What's going on? Well, I think you're on mute.
You're on mute, dog. Unmute yourself.
I got you, though. You know what I'm saying? I got you. A whole lamp, man. You know
One
what I'm
by
saying?
land, two by sea.
Oh my.
Beautifully animated. It is good to see you. How you been?
Pretty good. You know what I'm saying?
Good. All right, y'all know she's back in the building. Before I do this, let me show some love. I see some of my people in the building. Is this my brother Black Man Unfiltered? What's going on, bro? What's good with you, y'all? Moderators, please put Black Man's link in the chat. Show my brethren some love. That's my brother. We started off this thing together. Be sure to patronize his page. A wonderful brother, my guy. Show your love for the one and the only. The Black Man Unfiltered is in the building. And then I saw the one and the only, the lovely. Where's she at? I saw her. I'm not crazy. Hold on a second. Security boss is in the building. Salute to you. Moderators, please drop security boss's link as well. Everybody show some love over there. If you guys want a wonderful example of marriage and success and business, this is the place that you want to go. Security boss is the real deal. Y'all show your love. All right, guys. So last week we brought somebody that I met over on Knowledge and Relationships. I saw her on the panels, and initially I'm like, this girl, listen, if you get into an argument, you're gonna lose. This girl can go. But if you take some time and listen to not only the way she communicates, but what she communicates, you start to realize that she's really a deep sister. And so she's back again this week with a perspective. I want you to show your love for somebody who's been on the panel last week and this week, and you guys will see her more in the future. Show your love for the one and the only Miss Oshun, better known as Lola. She is in the building. What's going on?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for that introduction.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you're here. I'm really glad to see you. Bravo, I see you in the building. What's going on? Good to see you tonight. Glad that you are here. Bolo TV, good to see you tonight. Glad that you're here. And then I'm bringing to the stage now. So there's somebody I met on Instagram. If you guys know, if you guys aren't following me on Instagram, shame on you. I mean, we over there doing it like it's doing it big over there. So follow us on Instagram. Everybody who's on here got an Instagram page. Go follow or patronize. But when I'm doing content, I go through, and my goal is to connect with other strong minds who have a perspective on life, relationships, so on and so forth. So I ended up looking at some reels after uploading one of mine, and I saw this lady talking that real stuff. And I see a video, and I've learned you don't think you know somebody based off of one reel. Like that's a lesson for everybody. You don't know my phone number. So I went and I did some research on her page, and there's a consistent level of just logical, well-intentioned reels on life, relationships. And I wanted to invite her to this podcast because I thought it would add a great feel to it. So guys, this is the first time she's on the panel. I want you guys to show your love. The moderators, Lady Navoa, I talked with her early. Shout out to Lady Navoa, just her in the quiet storm, just be on top of stuff. We want to make sure we put her link into the chat as well. And everybody go patronize her on Instagram. But I want you guys to show your love for the one and the only Miss Latricia Renee. She's in the building. We're gonna work together on this show, and I think we're gonna have a really explosive time. You guys show your love in the chat. First time here, Miss Latricia Renee is in the building.
Hi, y'all.
Hey, what's going on? First of all, thank you guys for being here. Really glad to see everybody. Before we get started, how was your week? How was your weekend? How was your weekend?
Mine was
it's great to
Go
hear.
ahead, Latricia.
no, I'm sorry. Mine was really good. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go off.
No, I'm still on my timer. You're good.
Excellent. Yeah, you guys, the July 4th weekend is just July 4th is on Tuesday, just all throwing off. I saw fireworks on Saturday. I'm like, this ain't right. So anyway, it's been good, guys. What states are you guys from? I'm down here in Texas. Where you guys at?
I'm in Alabama.
Right in the heart of the United States, Kansas.
Kansas, okay.
Oh, Latricia, you're still muted.
I didn't hear you, but you said Ohio?
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, I'm in Maryland.
Maryland, okay. Okay, beautifully animated. I think she's in Texas as well. So we represent everybody in America. So glad that you guys are here. Red Lipstick Vibes, get to see you tonight. So guys, we got a really serious conversation. But before we jump into this, you guys know we've got shenanigans to get into. So let's take a look at this first video. We're going to react to it. And then we'll start the show off like this. Let's listen to what this lady has to say.
I'm hearing a lot of conversation about how women want, a provider man, a masculine man, a traditional man. But I'm going to tell y'all this now. A lot of y'all are not going to be successful in those marriages because you don't know how to talk to a man. I know I may have ruffled some of y'all feathers, but if you are going to go out to Africa and you're from the U.S., you're going out to Africa to find you a man, you're not going to be able to talk to him the way that you've been talking to the men in the U.S. You're not going to be able to flaunt those degrees in his face because he's not going to care. The truth of the matter is a lot of women did not grow up seeing their mothers being a wife. Now they have to put their pride aside and learn these matrimonial principles in their big age, which honestly is not impossible and it can be done, but it is a learning curve. And if you ask me, the first step is to learn how to properly talk to the man. If you would like some tips on how to properly communicate with your man, let me know. I'll be more than happy to share them with you.
Okay, so here's the question. In general, I'm going to start with the fella because the lady's going to cook this one. I sense it. In general, on average, do women generally know how to communicate with men? Let's start with Lost in Translation podcast, and we'll work ourselves clockwise.
Sometimes women like to pride themselves on saying that they're great communicators. But I'm telling you from experience, they could use some work. Now, most of the times you have to, whenever you're talking to a man, you got to think about with them, man. In sales, we call it with them. What's in it for them? You know what I mean? Of course, you're going to get what you need to get, but you got to make sure you get something in it for him. You got to wet his whistle. You got to get his ear. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know how to talk to the king in him, man, you always be talking to the fool. That's what my granddad always told me. He says it's two people inside each man. There's a king and there's a fool. And whoever you start to address is who's going to answer back. So we got to make sure that these women learn how to speak to the king and their man instead of the fool.
Hold on. Pause. That was dope. That was some excellent wisdom, Lost in Translation.
Thank you,
That
sir.
was great. Reckless Ray, what about you, man? On average, do women generally know how to communicate with men?
No. Women generally know how to communicate with simps, especially in the West, especially in the United States. There's a lot to be said about the way that we are communicated with and the way that we are viewed. And most of the lack of communication skills is based on how they view the men they're speaking to, which in most cases is they view us as children. So you aren't going to speak to a child like you would speak to a man. And that is the reason that there is a breakdown in communication, because these same women will go to work and they'll speak to their boss just fine because they respect him as a man. Then they go home and they're their man-age child that they've decided is a child in their purview, they speak to them as such. It's not hard to, I mean, the easiest way to break this down is give the man in your house the exact same level of respect you give the person who signs your check. We'll leave it there.
Okay. Okay, ladies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend the question just slightly. So on average, do women generally know how to talk or how to communicate with men? And if not, why? So let's start with Beautifully Animated Speaks. So on average, do women know how to communicate with men? And if not, why is that?
First of all, LIT. I got that. You know what I'm saying? You gotta light it up when you just spit like that. You know what I'm saying? Give us the word. Give us the word. You know what I'm saying? No, they do not know how to communicate. I mean, the problem is, if you don't know how to communicate at home, of course you don't give a damn about communicating right with the other people outside. You would never talk properly. So you're going to do, if you do it wrong at home, you're going to do it wrong outside. That's
What does say? Practice makes perfect.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, I mean, when you go to some of these places, some of these areas and stuff like that, they are talking disrespectful. In general, that's how they communicate. It's disrespectful. They've normalized it. So they're desensitized.
So that's a key word then. So one of the issues why they do this is because that has been normalized.
Yeah.
Good perspective. Good perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, Lola, what about you? So I'm gonna ask the same thing to you. Do women generally know how to communicate with men? If not, then why?
Okay, I'm gonna go a little rogue on this, and only because I have a direct instance where I have to do that on a daily basis. So one of my children's fathers is Ivorian, and when we were together, there was a huge cultural difference in the way communication happened. And a lot of the time, I spent a lot of time communicating extra how African Americans communicate versus how continental Africans communicate, and trying to merge the two and figure it out somehow. And not all the time not all the time was there respect for the way one side communicates versus another side. There were certain rules that other side didn't have that the other side did, and vice versa. And each side felt like, well, y'all don't know how to communicate. But obviously you see the issue, right? So I want to say women inherently, like naturally, do not know how to communicate with men. They have to be taught that through either, life lessons or some sort of class that may assist. All right. But generally speaking, I want to say humans don't know how to communicate, especially humans in the Americas. Not really. But I'll be honest with you, to be more nuanced, there's different communication styles from region to region. And like when I'm in the South, I understand the way I'm supposed to communicate versus when I go to New York is very different. Versus out West, I've seen on television, because I haven't been there yet, that is different how you communicate and what's the rules of communication there too. So, I'm not going to say someone doesn't know how to communicate just in general because, they're just an ingrate. But I just want to say, like, there's nuances to communication that might appear to be non-communicable, but it just might be a difference in culture and maybe biology too, because the way women communicate with their children is biologically based versus the way they communicate with men can never be like their children. So they have to learn that. And like everyone said, it's a learned behavior. So obviously you learn good behaviors and bad behaviors, and you try to figure it out in the middle. But usually people figure it out when they're around 30 or 40, which is like the wrong time usually to learn how to communicate. But that's where we are with technology and being online all the time and just pressing buttons versus being in each other's faces. So that has contributed to the degradation of communication, but that's happening worldwide. So I don't want to make that like an American thing. No, I know when to put America under the bus. Like that's not it. But that's what I would say on average. And I know you're gonna say It was not yes or no, but that's how I feel about that.
No, I think that's a good response. Yeah, I think it's a good response.
So is women treating their sons like son husbands biological?
In some respects, yes. In other respects, it's a learned behavior. So for instance, when you're raising your son when they're little, you're the authority. However, when they catch up to you in height, you start noticing that authority starts to like go like this every now and then. And then when they start doing this on you, you notice that your authority is different. Like how your relationship has to be different simply because of how tall they are, even if they're younger. That changes the dynamics of just in general. So it's like that right there could never be how you deal with, let's say, a mate, right? You expect your mate to be this tall and above versus the changing relationship with a son. So some women can become attached to their children, both male and female, in a non-productive way, but then at other times they can be non-attached in a non-productive way. So, and that's a learned behavior. So it's like, both sides, neither side on that is right, but it is a learned behavior. I think all parents know there's a certain level of attachment we will always have, women to our boys and men to their daughters. That's biologically based. I can't explain why men and their daughters have it's like a courting relationship that's natural, right? Where he protects her in the same way he protects his wife and everybody else, but it's a different kind of relationship that is unlike a wife or a spouse. Like it's just different, and it's immutable too. So versus a spouse, I've seen that, just like I've seen with the mother sons thing. I think we get more of the mother son issue because women typically have children more than men underneath them, so we see it more. I know I seen it with my father, the way he treated my brother versus me. That's because I'm his kid. I'm right there. I'm not his cousin looking in every now and then at the family reunion. Stuff like that. So that's what I would say to that.
Okay.
To that point, Lola, and then the difference we've seen between the way mothers and fathers parent their kids is generally because mothers manage their kids, fathers raise their kids, right? Mothers get their kids attached while men prepare their kids to detach. So there's a fundamental difference in that approach, but really good response. Latricia, what the question is on you. Do women generally know how to communicate with men? And if not, why is that?
No, I think in most cases, women from the time they're little girls, they are raised to be treated like a princess, or like either you treat me like a princess and you give me what I'm going to replace you. So I think we don't know how, because most of the time we're not taught. We're just taught that we are the prize, when I feel like men are the prize. But we're taught that we're the prize. We need to be treated like a princess. And then we have these expectations that you're supposed to do these things, but we don't communicate with men a lot of times. Like, this is what I expect from you. This is what I need from you. We're taught that either he's supposed to do it naturally or you leave him and be with someone else.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask another question. So I do agree with the idea that communication is taught, right? So you don't just get this just out the womb. But I've noticed that there's some subtle differences. When there is fear or the need for protection, it's like women generally know just instinctually how to communicate. It's only when there's a surplus and there is no need of protection, because we are protected in the society, we've got a surplus of stuff, and this perception of equality, that now we need communications training. So my question to you all is it really that we need training on how to communicate, or really is it just we don't respect men because we've attached men to how they provide and what they can provide? I mean, what they provide and how they protect. Is that the issue here?
That's definitely
no, they're just disrespectful. It doesn't matter what you do.
I spent all that time on that intellectually profound question, and just to hear just disrespectful.
But so
beautifully animated is not playing.
I think you're saying basically when you have a reason to have some act right, you suddenly have some act right, right?
Precisely.
Like when you have a reason to. But I'm gonna be honest with you. There's been studies that have showed that when humans don't perceive there's no ramifications for not being respectful, that typically they're not respectful. It's only when humans sense ramification that they act in a certain way. And honestly, we've seen that in animals as well. Just honestly, but to your point, yeah, you have to have some level of fear of something to, in a sense, respect either losing it or something happening to you. Like the only reason why I fear fire is because it causes pain. Now, if it didn't cause no pain, I wouldn't care what catch on fire. Like it catch
True.
on fire, like it's cool, but it causes pain, and I could lose my house if something catch on fire in here. So yeah, I respect fire. I don't play with it. I don't flirt with it. I use it correctly. I respect everything about it. But that's that I got some act right when it comes to fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, Reckless, if you're speaking, you're
sorry. No, I agree. It's based on a lot of these problems happen majorly in first world countries that have been on top of the game for a long time. It's very safe. There's no natural consequence. There's no reason to follow the laws of the jungle if there's no jungle, right? The issue is now that we're in situations where you have people that just lose their stuff. Because I mean, you guys got to understand, like we are back in the jungle, technically speaking. We've all been at home in solitary confinement for 2 years. A lot of people are running around not only functionally stupid, which was always a standard, they're also crazy. Now you're dealing with stupid, crazy people. The jungle's back, and it's mess around and find out. And you going around, and these people are going around until they bump into these people that are literally mentally disheveled. They look normal as everybody else until you cross that line and trigger them. And then it's all gloves are off. You are now in the jungle. But by the time you get there, it's too late to backtrack. It's always best to be proactive and just not be in those situations. And there has to be that understanding, because those consequences are floating around there, and they don't come with warning labels anymore. It's at random.
So to that point, Reckless Ray, let me give this to the ladies, and then gentlemen will chime in as well. Is it possible, Latricia? I want you to start off this one. Is it possible? And I'm going to try to position this question correctly. Is it possible for a woman to respect a man, to genuinely respect a man, without a healthy level of fear? Is it possible?
Absolutely. But I feel like it goes back to like what you're taught, because my mom died when I was 10. So my dad remarried less than a year later, and I saw my stepmom, she bullied my dad so bad. So I grew up like thinking that that's the way I was supposed to deal with men. So because I was a bully, because that's what I saw, I didn't really have any respect for him until it was something I needed. But when I went to therapy and I began to heal, I realized you can have a healthy respect for a man without being fearful. It's just a matter of your mentality, I guess, is the best way to put it.
That's a real response. Ladies, what do you think about that? Do you agree with what Latricia said? Is it possible to have a respect, like a genuine respect, without a healthy level of fear?
I'm not afraid of none of y'all, but I respect you. There you go.
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear you.
I said, oh no, I'm telling the guys, I don't fear none of y'all, but I do respect you.
I don't think that's what Sir Hill was trying to get at in terms of like fear them, like we're afraid of them. But
Beautifully animated is like, I'll see y'all in the ring, brother.
I think the healthy fear is fear of losing them in a healthy way. Like when you fear losing something that's, say, dear to you, right? That's different than fearing someone that you think is going to hit you. Like I fear losing my family because it's dear to me. I think that's a healthy fear. I think based on what we're going to get into, having a healthy fear of the difference in male and female when it comes to your physical equality. The same weight and muscle mass on a female is going to be different than on a male. So there's a certain healthy level of fear you have to have with that if you're going to operate in these spaces, if you know what I mean. That's not a fear as in I fear talking to you because you're going to attack me. It's like, okay, I understand if we were in a fight, you probably will kill me versus me to you. But I understand what the healthy fear thing, but the whole idea of I fear you like I fear walking around snakes, like literally on the floor, that's a whole different level of fear. But yeah, I would agree that yeah, that has to have it has to be a healthy level of fear for you to maintain respect. Human beings don't really respect things that they don't have some level of. If I don't do, then something else will happen. Like I don't know. Maybe we're not
but
at that place evolutionarily, but I've
but
seen that too often.
I get what you're saying, right? But I don't fear that either.
Mhm.
I don't fear losing them because I treat them correctly. You know what I'm saying? I'm respectful. I honor them. I listen to them and stuff like that. We can have communication and stuff like that. I'm not bashing them or trying to put them down and stuff like that. So I don't have a fear of losing them either. I don't have that fear.
Well, I know you wouldn't. You wouldn't stop doing that and say, "Yeah, I definitely don't fear." Like you're going to continue doing that because you
Yeah.
have a healthy fear of losing them. That's why you're continually sharpening your sword when it comes to how you deal with men, because you do want them, right? Therefore, you don't want to not have them. So you can't just lose what you just named off to me. Those traits, you can't afford to lose that and still have them. So you're doing that because you don't want something else to happen. So I get what you're saying. Like you're not walking around petrified that you're going to lose your men because you know how to deal with your men. However, I think
Yeah.
the I guess the verbiage is if you don't want to lose them, you will treat them right. That is a certain type of fear. It's not the same type of fear that people would just generally associate with the word fear. Like, oh my God, I'm afraid. Like, not that. It's nuanced. And honestly, I don't even think the English lexicon has a word for that, because I'm using it and I know that it's being used too literal even when I say it. So yeah, but you're right in terms of why you're doing it, and that yeah, you don't walk around feeling like, oh my God, something's gonna happen. Yeah, because you're doing what you're supposed to do. However, I think they're talking about beyond doing what you're supposed to do. Are you doing that because you don't want to lose your men? Like, what are you doing it
No, I
for? Like,
do
what's the
because that's
motivation?
how I am. That's the person that I am. That's why I don't have that fear.
I'll be honest with you.
I don't have it.
I'll be honest with you. Like it's hard to say well how we are, because like someone told me a long time ago, everybody will do everything. It just so happens that they have a different threshold level. Everybody has a different threshold, and when they're gonna kill someone, when they're gonna get out of pocket. Some people's threshold level is deeper than others, but everybody has their threshold level. And as Sir Hale said, like with me, I'm a debater. I like to debate. I'm a big talker. So someone like me is my threshold level in terms of like cuss out is a little thinner than like some other people I know. But that's because of how I grew up, the city I grew up in, stuff like that. But I understand the need to respect people. But just what I'm saying, like I don't want to lose my friends, right? So when I'm angry with them, I choose my words a bit more carefully versus someone on the street that might throw water in my face. Like, yeah, I'm a little more careful. Like when my son do it versus when somebody I don't know do it. I'm careful based on how I feel about them.
Yeah, but
You know
I
what,
can.
Lola, before you go beautifully animated, I want to circle to something Lola said, and I think it's big. She said she doesn't want to lose. If there's one characteristic that I think I see with women today, they're not afraid to lose anything. There's no fear because the thought is, whatever I lose, I just go get another one. Lose a man, go get another one. Lose some money, go get another one. It's going to be somebody else. And I think with that idea that there's just going to be something else, you just squander what you have. Can you guys see that, or am I off on that?
No, you right on
No,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I can speak. I can speak on myself because I know myself. I know myself from my own experiences and the fact that I self-evaluate, and I know myself from other people's experience with me in our conversations and stuff like that. So, and the work continues. I'm still learning myself, but I'm not someone who's just not knowing because I didn't do the work. That's what I'm saying.
Mhm. Mhm.
Latricia, you sound like, it looked like you had something to say earlier. Did you had a thought?
It was it wasn't about what you just said. It was just a little bit ago where I'm sorry, is your name Lola? I do agree with what Lola was saying, but I also disagree. I feel like, so if I don't know, just somebody I care about overall, I have a respect for them. And it's not because I don't want to lose them. It's because I value them, because they're important to me. They mean something to me. So I just kind
Facts.
of, like, I understand what you were saying, Lola, but I disagree in regards to me respecting you because I don't want to lose you. It's because I do care about you, because I rock with you, because you mean something to me, not because I'm afraid of losing you.
So here's a little
I think
pushback for you.
afraid of losing has to do with where you value people. Like you're not afraid to lose something you don't value. And that's what I'm saying. Like I don't want to lose my relationship with someone that I care about. Now, their relation can never be lost to me. Like I can't lose my father from being my father, but I can lose my father's relationship if I don't respect him in the way he needs to be respected individually. So it's like, yes, I can lose my father in that way. And I have to value that relationship. Everybody doesn't value their relationship with their fathers. Some people could care less about their fathers, and like it really doesn't matter, like Sir Hale said, like they just don't care. And they will tell you, I don't care about what you do. I got my mother, or I don't need parents. I've heard some weird stuff. But that value is inset, which causes you to say, listen, for me to keep what's good about my relationship, I have to fear losing it. If you don't feel losing it as a human being, psychologically, you're going to fall into the, I, I can just replace it and we're still good to go kind of mentality.
For the fellas, let me ask you a question along this lines. In your relationship, I know all of you guys are, big pimping. You do your thing, your thug thizzle. So in your dating experience, do you see a difference when you're with a woman and she knows that there are other women who want you as well, versus a woman who's with you and she don't think you can get anybody else? Are you treated any differently, based off of what's available to you?
Absolutely. I'll put it to you like this. They know, you know what I mean? But it's up to you to be a gentleman to handle your business. You can't. It's like one of those things you hold over somebody's head, but you really don't do it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. Is like they have to know you. You know what I mean? And if they know how you got them, then it was like there's no problem. He can probably get somebody else too. They're gonna act right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, I really do appreciate you. But you ain't the last person on the earth. You know what I mean? I'm just telling you, ain't the last.
Dang, lost in
What
translation.
happens is they treat you a little bit better if they know that they can be replaced. But you don't want to exercise that particular option. Just it's one of those unspoken things that you say, that you don't say, so to speak.
100%. 100%. I Lost in Translation summed it up so well, but it's the truth. Like, the woman that's going to treat you the best is the one that knows that you can replace her. Period. You're gonna get less blowbacks, the arguments, even though, because there's always going to be arguments, because women are women. There's always going to be an argument, but they're not as bad, and they tend to get over them. Like when it's time to put the shoe down, they know. There's like, oh, okay, like I can push it to this. You're able to set boundaries. Now, a man who ain't got no options, you got no boundaries, sir. Like, you about to get walked over, kicked over, pushed over. You don't get boundaries. And it's because she knows. She's like, you're going nowhere. And most likely she's waiting for a better option to show up anyway. So you're a placeholder. So at that point, that man is replaceable. I don't know too many chicks, unless they're in a certain level of society, that are just running around snatching up, and I hate to use this terminology, but snatching up high value men like it's nothing. I know women who run into one, maybe two if they're lucky. Now, are you talking about everybody you date's high value? I don't think you're dating. I think you're getting run through. There's a difference. Like, and like lightning don't strike twice. Like, there's just not enough of those men. So like the level of value you put in and the amount of work you take into building yourself as a man, to a certain level, like, yeah, you're going to get treated different because you're a rarity. You're becoming more rare. You're less common. Anywhere you go on this planet, there are beautiful women. You can go into the favelas and find beautiful women. You can go into the hood and find beautiful women. You can wander into the trap and find a beautiful woman. Honestly, if you get there early enough, like, they're everywhere. They literally are. There are beautiful women all over the place. There are not a bunch of men who have their stuff together. And I'm not even going to go at rich. I'm saying men who have a trajectory, who have a plan, who are pursuing something more than just being average, that are moving forward in life. Those guys are rare.
So, ladies, are you kind of hear what the question that I posed? It's really our experience is women respect men when they know, or there's a healthy fear that you're not his only option. It seems like once that's set, a woman will treat you differently. So my last question, we're going to move on because this is interesting to me. Why is that? Why do so many women need to feel that they can be replaced before they give that man the respect that he deserves?
I have no idea because I don't have that. I've never been that way. You know, I treat my man the best because I cherish the man I'm with. I have no fear about being replaced. I don't think about other women. That's just never been me. I mean, this is go back. I've been like this since high school. I don't think about outsiders. They're outsiders. I am in my relationship, and the only one I'm thinking about, looking at, and all that stuff is my man.
I see you, beautifully animated, talking that talk. I see you. Latricia, Miss Oshun, do you guys have a response for this?
I agree with what she just said. Like, I treat my man well because I do value and I cherish him. Now, so my kid's dad, he has a lot of women who wants to be with him. I call them his fan club. So when we were together, I knew, like, if we break up tomorrow, you got a bunch of options. So for me, it was never I'm gonna be with you because I don't want you to be with anybody else. Like, no, if you feel like there's somebody out there better for you, I want you to go find them. You leave me alone and I want what's best for you. But I don't think women staying with the man so that another woman can have him, I don't think that's any different than a man coming back to you after he sees another man treating you better than he treated you in the relationship.
Now, in fairness, that to me is R&B songs. In real life, unless a man just really most men aren't leaving a good woman. And generally, so you got some guys, some women who will get with a bad guy and she think that she can pray and change him. She gonna go to the church and lay hands and she gonna turn them around in 3 circles, and then the Lord gonna send lightning down. No, but generally men aren't doing that. Men aren't walking away and then coming back for the most part, right? So I think that's we heard that a lot in R&B songs, but I have seen women do that though, and a lot of women, they'll get with the good nice guy early on. He's boring. He doesn't have a lot going on. He ain't got that, he ain't ambitious. He ain't got that thug in him, right? And then they go get the thug. They go get the dude who got the in him. They have a couple kids, mom. And then once they get to know the Lord, they in church, they just walked down the aisle and gave their life, they rededicated themselves. Now they want the good guy. So I've seen it in the reverse. I don't typically hear men doing the hey big head calls. I hear ladies doing it. You see what I'm saying? So I think there's a difference.
Yeah, I agree. There is a difference, but there are a lot of men who do that though. Like, I'm not ran through, like Reckless said earlier, but I've had a few relationships and there's never been a guy that I've been with, even when I was dating women, there has never been someone I was dating that we broke up that has never tried to come back. And it's not because like there was a relationship I broke up because it was really, really toxic. There was an abusive one. But then there were some like, you're growing and they don't want to grow. They want to stay where they are. So sometimes you got to just be like, I love you, but I see you around, because forever is a long time to be with somebody and regret being with them because you chose to settle. So there are, like I said, the R&B thing, like there are a lot of people who backtrack, not because, well, a lot of times they backtrack because when they see you with somebody else, they're like, damn, so that's what they were waiting for. Like, they know how good you were to them. So now they know what you're doing for this person and they don't have that anymore. And then sometimes you break up with somebody because y'all are just going different ways. And then after they get themselves together, after they realize that therapy is your friend, even in the Black community, then they're like, okay, I see stuff differently now. I understand. I can appreciate. I can value you now. Can I have another chance? So it's more often than just an R&B song.
Well,
yeah.
Latricia, I just wanted to point
couldn't
out
resist.
that you made my point though. The people who you were in relationships with, you said they weren't moving forward. So like my point was, you're not running into people that are going to end up into a certain echelon of society or a certain lifestyle multiple times.
Yeah.
I was speaking specific to those men because a lot of women will go out here and they'll actually date one of those high value guys and they'll be like, oh, I can get another one. And it's like, can you though? Like, did you luck up or are you in these spaces? Because like when I talk to people, the first thing I ask is like, where are you hanging out? What bars do you go to? Are you going to the country club bar? Are you going to the chop house bar? Like, are you going to 801 to get your drinks? Are you paying $25 a drink for drinks? Because if you're not, you're probably not around those guys because most of those guys want a paywall to keep those women away specifically. Like they want you to not be up in there.
Yeah.
So, you know, like it's one of those scenarios where it's specific to that. Like, I mean, most women that I've talked to anyways, I don't think anyone's actually going to admit that they were just like, yeah, I went to college and just got ran through. But like, I think most women have relationships, right? And in those relationships, you're hooking up. If it's within that realm, I understand. But when it comes to dealing specifically, if you're talking about upper echelon men that are above average, men that are average on a trajectory up, a lot of women will be like, oh, I'm hooking up with this guy that's rich. And then the next question is, have you ever been seen with him during the light of day? Oh, well, no. Like, is he only calling you at 2 a.m. after the club let out? Well, yeah. Okay. You're getting run through. Like, I'm sorry. That's not a relationship. Like, but they'll run into those guys and they'll be like, oh, well, I get a bunch of those guys that call me at 2. And I get to pick out of those guys whose house I want to go over to. But those aren't relationships. Those men are not trying to marry you. They had bad nights out. And nobody wants, like, that's where that conversation piece comes from. Because women will be like, I'm in those circles. And I'm like, ain't nobody seen you until the club got out. You're not in the circle. Like, you're not hanging out. So it's just different between people that are actually dating and looking for marriage and then going, these guys are actually courting me or I'm being proposed to or we're making plans that are moving this forward versus, oh, this guy hooked up with me for a year at 3 a.m. at his behest when his night didn't go well and calling that a relationship and saying you could get another one of those. And I'm like, 100% you can get another one of that scenario, but you will not get that man to marry you. You will never meet that man's mother. You won't meet his friends. like it's just different. And like people get the two mixed up and it's super sad because they end up having bad lives and then they get mad about it.
And so with that being said, guys, shout out to one second. So shout out to Information Man with the $4 super sticker. He says, much respect, brother. Information Man speaks. A salute to you, sir. Thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate you. Let me play the super chat song. And once we do this, Beautifully Animated Speak is going to come back with the final words on this segment, and we're going to move forward with our shenanigans. Oh, shout out to Robbie Privileged in the building. She says, happy Sunday to all. Shout out to Sir Hale, Miss O'Shawn, Beautifully Animated Speaks, and the chat. Salute to you, Robbie. Good to see you. It's been a long time. We got some work to do together. Glad to see you. I hope that all is well with you. All right, let me play the super chat song really quickly. Once we get back, we will get more into some politically correct shenanigans. In the meantime, let's pick it up.
Pick it up, super chat. Pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. I've been on the flex since flex on. Neighborhood all in your eardrums. I ain't never scared like Bone Crush. Boy, I got God, don't fear none. My line busy, take no calls. Feels like I don't have no flaws. Snakes in the grass, cut those off. Yo, squad shitty, my bros raw. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. I've been on the flex since flex on. Neighborhood all in your eardrums. I ain't never scared like Bone Crush. Boy, I I got God, don't fear none. My line busy, take no calls. Feels like I don't have no flaws. Snakes in the grass, cut those off. Yo, squad shitty, my bros raw.
Sorry about that, guys. We're back. Appreciate you guys for the super chat. Much love to you. All right, guys. Beautifully Animated Speaks. You had a comment. Let's get your final thoughts. Then we're going to move right along.
So for you, Rob. Okay, I know you like to pop them pants, sis. But to what Reckless Ray said, guys, he's telling you, tell your female friends and your female relatives the difference between a booty call and a relationship. Tapping that booty it's not a relationship, boo. Right. Run away.
All right, guys. So we're gonna move really quickly. I want to deal with me.
One more.
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
For Latricia, what she was talking about, that's what I call pick your pain. Okay, you got long-term pain, which is staying in a bad relationship because for whatever reason you don't want to break up. Your short-term pain is breaking up with a bad situation and healing from that pain. Because breakups are painful, but they go away. You will get over it. Me personally, I take the short-term pain, but it's no longer painful for me because when I get to that point, I'm out. I've already checked out, so it's not painful for me. But still, yeah. I mean, really, what do y'all think about a person who chooses long-term pain?
Who chooses it? Interesting question.
Because they don't want to break up.
It's complacency. It's complacency. It's sloth. It's choosing to be in hell versus choosing the option of removing yourself from the fiery pits that you've chosen to be in and putting yourself in a better space. I mean, that is on my list. I'm pretty sure it's on a list of things. God hates sloth. Like, God don't like lazy. You being lazy in a relationship.
Yeah.
Therefore, you're going to get bad results from that relationship. And the deal is, for those of you who are religious, the uncomfortability is just going to continue to ratchet up because you're being told that that's not where you're supposed to be, which is why it's so terrible. Like, it starts off a little bit annoying. Next thing you know, dude's pulling up. You got to sit for an hour and a half in your driveway before you go in the house to deal with this chick. Or you a chick who's come home and she gotta sit in the car for an hour and compose herself to get ready to go in the house to deal with this dude. Yeah. How bad does it have to get before you get the hint? Because the world, the universe, the energies, nature is telling you something. You ain't supposed to be there. But you choose to continue to do it because that's the hell you know, right? I'll tell you what, the hell you know is generally, in I'd say at least 75% of cases, worse than the hell you don't.
Yeah. Some people might choose it because it's better than being alone to them. And some people choose it because their children's happiness might outweigh their own. Some people choose it because they have nothing else. Literally, like if you are 2 in the face as a woman and maybe a 4 and a 4.5 in the body, and you let's say pushing up on 48, and you see what I'm saying, you might choose to stay in a relationship and just change your mentality in terms of what you expect out of it, rather than starting all over again and trying to get back on the dating market. You might opt to doing that. And that's not to say that you can't get out there and try your best and be happy with growing thick skin out on the dating market. However, people will make that concession based on what's important to them in their life. And I'll be honest with you, I've heard some stories, but at the end of the day, we all make concessions in relationships, especially when we don't feel like starting over. Like, I know my dad is there right now. He is not starting over again. And I'm like, okay, Dad, I think you could get someone else. And he's like, no, I'm tired. I'll just put up with this.
Okay.
Do women actually know when they're a 2 in the face?
Yeah.
No, I was just wondering
we,
because everything I see on these YouTube streets, everyone's a 10.
I mean,
yeah, before we get to that, hold on, guys. Before we derail, because that's going to a whole different conversation.
Sorry.
I want to see if Latricia had a thought on Beautifully in a Minute Speaks question, because I think it's really good. Why do people choose long-term pain? Why do they do that? Miss Latricia in Lost in Translation, any thoughts on that particular question?
Yeah, I know why. The main reason why they stick around is because of one thing.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
They don't want to start over, man. You know, they don't want to admit to failure, man. That's what that is. That it's the shame, the reason why they want to stay. Here's my thing. Most times, most disagreements can be solved as long as it's not a fundamental disagreement at your core. Most times people are reasonable and they'll work things out. But if it comes right down to something that goes against who your being is, that can't be worked out because that's baked in, man. Ain't nothing you can do about that. But my thing is this, anything can be worked out as long as you're willing, as long as both parties are willing to work that thing out, anything is possible. But as long as it's not fundamental, that it's deep down and baked in, you going against, you know, who I am. That's the only time I can't see where it can't be worked out, to be honest.
Yeah, Mr. Trisha, you're on mute,
darling.
Sorry. I think it depends on the situation because I know some people who stay in situations for a long-term pain because they feel like they've been through so much with that person that that person owes them to get it right. That they owe them. That you put me through so much.
That's a good one.
For so long, now you owe me. Like you have to get it right for me. I can't. K. Michelle has a song called Cinderella, and it talks about like basically building the man up for the next woman that he ends up with because he doesn't end up with you. And sometimes it's like, so I went through all of this with you. You've done all of this to me. I stuck it out. I loved you. And now you're going to leave me for somebody else. Whereas if I stick it out, I feel like if I love you enough or if I love you hard enough, you might just decide to realize that you've put me through so much. Now you want to get it right for me because you owe me that. So I think it depends on the situation. But a lot of times from what I've seen and even what I've experienced is because you owe that person in their mind.
So I'm going to agree with what everybody said, but I'm going to take a slightly different approach. Some people stay in pain because they're the one causing it. Like in all of my relationship counseling, typically people project and say what the other person is doing because it's the go-to thing. But a lot of times people will stay in situations because they're the one causing the pain. Instead of them being accountable for their contribution to it, it's just easier to sit back and analyze the response you're getting from the pain you're causing. And when a person is responding to you and bringing you pain, you look at their reaction and think that the reaction is the source when the truth is you're the source. You wouldn't be getting the reaction if you weren't causing the pain, right? If you guys have ever dealt with somebody who dealt with or who displayed narcissistic behavior, you guys understand this all too well. Right. Like they could be the issue, but somehow they will make the issue you, right? So I'm agreeing with what everybody's saying, but the other part to this, and this is where accountability comes in at. Sometimes you're in a situation because you're the problem, and if you could get better, you would. The reason you're staying is because no one else is going to put up with your crap. So that's why you're there, and that's the truth.
Oh,
agreed. You're the one causing the problem, so you're the one in control. You know what I'm saying? So you can pretty much handle it as long as you're the one dishing it out.
I'm so happy that y'all I first of all that I think that I thought to ask and that you all answered the question and stuff like that, because you know I go around saying pretty much the same thing. Pick your pain, right? But you all gave so many more perspectives and thoughts to it. Great thoughts. So thank you.
Next, I want to welcome to the stage the one of the only Embrace the Grace is in the building. Salute to you. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. I just finished my shift and I ran right over here, guys.
Excellent. Good to see you. So we're about to shift right now, guys.
I'm so glad that you're bringing up this topic because.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Sorry,
I think
there must be a delay.
Yeah, there's a delay. So I'm going to pause for 2 seconds. You go ahead. And once you're done, I'm going to play the other clip.
Okay, no go ahead, because I've missed the clip, so let's not even bother with that, and we'll move forward from now, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. So, all right, guys, we're going to play this other clip. This is about men's emotions. Let's take a look at what this gentleman says, and then I've got a question in response to what he says.
Embrace your emotions, fellas. Embrace them. It's okay that you hurt. It's okay that you feel pain. It's okay that you feel discomfort and lonely. Embrace it, right? The reason men are not good with emotions is because we always run from it or we always suppress it. We never embrace it. We never lay in the bed and wallow and say, you know what, I'm just angry today, and I'm angry. I woke up angry, and we don't embrace it. Now, I'm not saying stew in negative emotions, but feel it, embrace it, acknowledge it, and let it pass. You know, nothing is going to happen to you because you're angry or your feelings are hurt. Acknowledge it. Don't try to hide it with alcohol. Acknowledge it. I'm hurt. You'll laugh. Like, damn, this really got me. I fucked up.
So here's the question: is part of the reason why men can't, handle their emotions is because they haven't embraced their emotions? Is there some truth to that? Let's start with embrace the grace, and then we'll work our way counterclockwise.
Oh, well, I love the fact that he kept using embrace, but I think we have to go back a little bit further. It's not a matter of men not embracing their feelings. One, they're not even taught how to express their feelings, because as little boys, oh, don't cry, suck it up, get up. So men are taught as little boys to suppress their feelings. So they're not even, so how can you embrace something that you're not even taught how to do? And then on top of it, a lot of us women don't make it a safe place for men to embrace their emotions. We don't allow them to have a safe place to be vulnerable, because what's the first thing a lot of us do in a heated argument? We bring up the BS that they opened up to us with. And then it only takes about 1 or 2 times for that to happen, and they will never open up to us again. And that's why they open up to the work wife and somebody else besides us. So we have to really go all the way back and start teaching little boys to express their emotions so they can start embracing it. And then us women have to allow them to set a platform for us, for them to feel safe to embrace their emotions.
Excellent. Beautifully Animated speaks. Do you agree with what Embrace said? And what's your thought? Is part of the reason why men can't manage their emotions is because they haven't embraced their emotions? What's your thought on that?
I mean, of course I agree. I've lived it. As a little girl, I could cry to my dad, but as I got older, I was being told the same thing as my brother. One of my cousins had passed away, and we're at her funeral, and my dad tells me, you have to be strong for your aunt and cousins and stuff like that. So basically, you can't cry. And we've lost a few more people, whatever, and same thing, be strong, be strong, be strong. So you're locking yourself up, you know what I'm saying? You're locking away your emotions and stuff like that, which is confusing for a girl who's been allowed to cry when she was little, and I'm no longer allowed to cry. And college, I was in literature, and really we're reading literature from back in the day and stuff like that, and we're talking about how men did not show emotions, because that's where it started, you know what I'm saying? The age of the white wigs that the men used to wear. They were not showing emotions. So it goes back so far, this toxic chain of not being able to release your emotions. And I full on had a breakdown in my class, because it finally hit me of at my grandfather's, my dad's father, his funeral. I see my dad get up and leave and exit the what do you call this? The area in the church, whatever, where the funeral was
Sanctuary.
being. Thank you. um, and so it just, with the class and stuff, it just finally clicked where I started getting messed up because I'm seeing my dad hide his emotions and stuff like that, and the only thing I could say in class was it's so stupid. It's so stupid to put that on people that you can't show your hurt when you've lost somebody that you loved. Uh,
We give it a minute. We'll give it a minute. I'd Lola and beautifully animated. If you're still hearing this, for the hurt, we're here for you. We love you, and our hearts are with you. So I know it's a lot saying that, and I appreciate you opening up. Not only us on the panel, but those in the chat as well. All love your way. Lola, what about you? Is part of the reason we see men unable to manage their emotion? And you just think about some of the crime we see, right? Think about some of the issues we see. Is this due to men? They can't manage their emotions because we haven't been able to embrace our emotions. What's your thought on that?
As a woman, I'm gonna say as an outsider that I would generally agree with that. But I'm not just on the strength. I'm not gonna totally agree because I can never know uh, the emotions of a man, how that sits in his biological body, and managing that from that perspective. I don't have that physicality to know, okay, managing emotions. I'm a woman, so I see the world through my emotions, and not that my emotions dictate my actions, but they do inform me of certain things. So I'm very well informed about a lot of things through my emotions, but what dictates my actions is something different. So, but that's me as a woman. As a man, I can never know what that is. All I'll say is my father, like, I've never seen him cry except for one time. And that was something that was said to him by a family member, and it really kind of like struck him at his heart, like at his core, that they said that to him. And I understood that as a person that would hurt anybody. But my father told me before, he said, "Look, everybody here relies on me. If stuff get to ringing off out here, I can't be drunk, I can't be sad, I can't be in the corner trying to figure things out. I got to be on point so everybody else can be safe." So my position is to feel that, understand it, and keep moving forward so the rest of everybody behind me can be safe. That's my job. Like, I have to be able to do that. And I don't think when he said that he said that to me from a position of somebody who sat down and was told that. I think he learned that over time as a young man going through a lot of hardship, like as a teenager growing up in the city, that your job is to have emotions, yes, but the way you express them in society is different because of your station in society. Like, for instance, I don't mind a man being emotional and needing time to himself. However, I do mind a man being emotional to the point where he's a provider and now he feels like I just need 6 months to get my emotions clear. And that I just need 6 months and I don't want to go to work because my emotions need to be clear. At that point, now I'm not seeing him the same way as I would see someone who simply just needs to understand what's going on within themselves and maybe how to speak about it to a particular person or whatever. um that's where I would draw the line. But again, I'm saying that from a woman's standpoint. I don't know what that really is in a man. So yeah.
So you bring up a good point. You and Beautiful Animated Speaks both said something that I'm going to circle back to. But Latricia, what's your thought? Is part of the reason why men today, can't manage their emotions is because we haven't embraced it? What's your perspective on that?
I agree. I feel like men are expected to be these superhumans and carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. They're not allowed to sit the world down because nobody's going to help them shoulder it. They're not allowed to just be human without having to put that super on it at all times. And I do believe, like the other lady said, it goes back to them being younger. Like even when I have two sons, and when my kids' dad and I told our sons that we weren't going to be together anymore, my youngest son, he cried like, and he cried, and his dad was like, don't cry, stop crying. I'm like, no, don't tell him that, because that encourages him to grow up to be an emotionally constipated man who was never given permission to express his feelings. He doesn't know what he's allowed to logically do. So when my sons get to a point, like, you can tell when they're just building up. And so we'll go like, what you want to do? You want to go outside? You want to scream? You want to yell? You want to go to the, like, what do you want to do? Because I need you to know that it's okay to let this out. Otherwise, I open the door for them to be men who end up snapping later because they've carried so much inside of them. So yeah, I do believe that. I just feel like as women, we should give men more of a safe space to just be human. And that would help a lot, even as far as the younger generations coming after those men. Or if you allow a man to have a safe space with you, when he go talk to his homeboys, the conversation is different. So now when his homeboys are choosing other women, now they're not just looking for women who are 9, 10 in the face. Now they're looking for women who allow them to be safe as far as who they are. What are you carrying? What do you think about? Like, we know men sometimes, like, I know sometimes y'all just quiet, like, and we'll think that y'all quiet because of something else, but really, like, something may have happened at work and you're trying to process it and work through it in silence without us nagging at you because you won't communicate with us. So I think it all goes back to, honestly, like, it starts when you're younger. And even if you were never given permission to express your emotions when you're younger, the stuff you go through may not be your fault, but healing from it, it becomes your responsibility. So now when you're older and you realize, okay, I've got all this trauma from being younger, I got to work this out. I got to figure out. So then they become a better father for their children, or they become a better example for their homeboys who then teach their children. So that's how I feel about it.
Excellent. So Reckless Ray, it looks like he has a disagreement. So Reckless Ray, what's your perspective on this? Is the issue that men can handle their emotions due to an inability to manage them? What's your thought on that?
No. And respectfully to all the women on the panel who gave answers, this is the reason that there is no historical documentation of a successful female-run society, because they all got wiped out. During the Napoleonic Wars, where were the crying men? During World War I, when men had to run into machine gun fire when the machine was first made, and they had to take bullets to the body, to the tune to where the men shooting them felt so bad for the men that they were shooting that they had to stop because the bodies weren't falling down anymore. And those men had to go run into that gunfire during trench warfare. In World War II, when we were storming the beaches of Normandy and men had to make a conscious decision to open up a boat hatch, jump into ice cold ocean water while being pelted with machine gun fire, and run onto a beach while getting shot at, where were the crying men? Historically, throughout society, men who cried aren't here anymore. They had their stuff taken. They had their lands taken. They had their freedoms taken. They lost everything. The people who went to World War I and World War II came back home and went to work. You know what happens when men get emotional? School shootings. You know what happens when men get emotional? Grape. You know what happens when men get emotional? We destroy civilizations. We destroy whole cultures. We emotional men have gone to war and lambasted entire continents.
So do you believe that?
No, hold on. I'm not done.
Oh.
Who built? Where were the crying men when society was getting built? Where do you think the man who invented the air conditioning was crying the whole time? Do you think he went home and just, honey, we're going to lose the house. It's hot outside. We're going to sweat to death. Do you think the pilgrims that went across this country and had to wage war with the Native Americans in their territory before they started getting them sick, and they were fighting on equal ground and losing? Do you think they had time to cry? Like, this is a what about all the third world countries right now where people are literally starving to death? The most painful way to die next to getting stomped to death by a group of people. Why aren't they crying? We're sitting here in air conditioning on the internet talking about what men need to do with their emotions in a first world country that don't know true violence, that don't know true struggle. We have it so easy. I went out to my car today, and the 5 minutes it took for it to cool down, I was upset. I was emotionally devastated at the heat in that car because I didn't like it. That's our problems. No one on this panel has experienced carnage of that nature, of living in any type of environment where this stuff doesn't stop. We've all made our lives better. Generationally in America, our men have gotten weaker. Right now, statistically, the women on this panel have more grip strength than most men, most likely on average. We are breeding weak men. Weak men lose societies. This whole conversation, the only reason this is upsetting to me is because once we get down to your guys' level of emotionality, because that's what you guys are good at, once you level that playing field, you will get conquered. They're going to come wipe all this out. And then those of you that survive are going to be experiencing some real bad stuff, because normally the spoils of war include clapping them cheeks. And you're going to have no men left to protect you because they're all going to be crying with you. Talking about, babe, who's going outside? I'm scared. I don't want to go out there and fight. What if I get shot? What if I die? That's our job. The more you pull men out of that job, the closer you get to this whole thing going away. The rest of this planet is not trying to make their men more emotional. Everyone else is gearing up for war, and you're telling us we need to be crying. You get to cry. That is your privilege. The closer we get to where we're all crying, the closer you get to losing the world that you know. And I'm not saying that as like a doom and gloom hypothetical. We got two countries that are both powerhouses that do not like us. Bunch of military-age men from one of those countries is coming through our southern border right now with no family. They're just sending men of fighting age that are in shape. And you want us to be crying. Because when this falls, they're not just going to look for the white people. They're coming to you too. This is all of our problems. We cannot be encouraging or engaging in making men weak. And I understand that it feels good, but metered emotion and stoic men are what keeps society safe. They're what keeps societies afloat. If every man just stopped and cried every time stuff was hard for us, nothing would get done because our lives are consistently hard and terrible. Every single day. If I got to stop every single day that I wake up tired, that I wake up feeling some type of way, that I wake up feeling the pain of the things that I've experienced and don't galvanize that and go, that makes me strong and keep moving. I have a job to do. I am on a mission. I would get nothing done because it hurts that much. I don't get a choice in that. I have to move forward. Men have to move forward. I'm sorry for carrying on. Sorry.
No, you get what this has done though, because Latricia has something to ask, but I want to frame this that the whole concept of emotions, what used to be a more philosophical idea, comes from men who lived in those ancient times who had to observe realities in very crucial events. I find it interesting that when we talked about emotions, whenever it comes to men only get two emotions: you get crying or you get anger. And I'm very interested when I said manage emotions, we went there. I'm very interested. But listen, before I go there, Latricia, what's your question? And then we're going to get to Lost in Translation.
Yeah, so honestly, I was going to say, I don't think showing your emotions or being emotional is always crying. Like, you can be sad, you can be heartbroken, you can be mad, there are so many emotions that you can have as a man that does not necessarily mean that you're crying. But
Mhm.
still, like, I follow the Bible. So for me, like, there were times where I'm like, I can't cry. My kids can't see me cry. And my therapist was like, what is it about crying that you cannot let your kids see that? Because I would let stuff build up and build up until finally now I'm cleaning the bathroom and I'm frustrated and I'm crying because of all this stuff I was holding in. So even if you can't cry in front of other people,
Mhm.
I guess as a woman, I don't understand why it's not okay for you to cry maybe in the shower or on your way to wherever you're going. Like, why can't cry?
Latricia, yeah, I
I
gotta
got a
ask
question.
you,
I got
why why is it always crime? Like whenever we say, "Men, I want you to show your emotions," I want to see you cry, baby. I want to cry on my shoulder. Why do we reduce male emotions to crying
No,
when there are other emotions as well? I'm really genuinely asking that because I hear so many women talk about a man crying as a way of showing his emotions when there's a whole palette of emotions that men have, like passion and sadness and grief and stress, those kind of things. So why do we reduce emotions to aggression? Or so it's either the extreme aggression where we're showing hyper strength, or to me what's hyper weakness where we're crying. Why do we get those two polarities?
so I do agree that there are a lot of emotions. The reason I mentioned crying specifically is when Reckless was going on a rant a little bit ago, like all he was crying. When men show their emotions, that's when I was going to say, like, boys are taught to manage their emotions before they communicate.
Yeah, Latricia, you're breaking up
Yes.
just a little. It's hard to hear. It's a little
Oh,
choppy.
is this better?
Yes.
Oh yeah, much better. Yeah.
Okay, so the reason I mentioned crying is because when Reckless was speaking about like what men aren't allowed, he kept saying crying. So that's why I mentioned crying specifically. But my initial question before he kind of went on like that was he mentioned that when men or boys show their emotions, we get stuff like school shootings. So my question is, if you're taught that it's okay to show your emotions as a little boy, if you're taught positive ways to express that, then how does that translate to you being a man still not allowed to express that?
right.
It depends on who's doing it, because when I've never had a woman go, I need you to show your emotions, let me see you be happy. They want to see you be weak. That's the issue, is I've never had a woman go, because like we're still talking about this and the conversation from all of you is tinged towards, well, you need to be soft, you need to cry, you need to cry in front of people. Like, no, we don't. Like, I'm 100% with you. I can cry in the shower, I can cry by myself. My grandmother, who meant the world to me, most important person in my existence, died. I cried alone, but I processed through it. I got it out. I didn't stop. I didn't sit down. I went to work the next day at 16. Like, I mean, the issue is you guys are like pulling this into a retrospect of, you're looking at it through your lens with what you have to deal with. You're not looking at it from our perspective of what we have to deal with. We have two different sets, and regardless of what you guys want to say, we are different. It is not right for me to expect you to respond into emotions the way that I do. I am a man. You are not men. That's the difference. You guys keep like all of these conversations, and a lot of the way that we're trying to like move children is based on a lens of, oh, okay, well, like, we're strong and independent too, and it's like, okay, but like it's not the same. It's not the same. Like, there's a reason. Like, it's just not the same. It's different. So like, yes, men do need to be able to process emotions. I can agree with you on that. How we do that is not the same as how you all would do it. It's different for us. Like, it just is. It's historically different. Like, we're built to handle stress better than you guys. So like, every little thing doesn't even actually register for us, for some stuff that for a woman might be like something where it's like, hey, like, you might want to take a little time and process that. it's just not the same.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that you're wrong and that men shouldn't process emotion, but like we're only talking about.
That's how you came across though.
Because this whole conversation, all the women on here have been talking about it from a perspective of men showing weakness in public.
No,
that's literally all we talked about. There was no conversation about men showing joy.
Some men
there
are
was
not
no
even taught.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
let's talk about how men show joy.
Some men are not even taught how to show emotions, period. How to embrace emotions. We're going all the way back, and you specifically brought up crying. I wasn't even thinking about crying. Right. I was thinking about all across. You guys go through stress. You guys go through worrisome of paying bills, making sure the kids are good, making sure the wife is good, making sure your mom is good. I wasn't just pinpointing on crying. It's just simple things. And if you are not taught to simply to embrace them and process them, that's when the issue, that's all I think the ladies on the panel are trying to say. We know that you guys process emotions different. We know that you guys do different things as outlets as women, but some men are not even taught the basics of how to embrace emotions. And it starts as a little boy. That's all I think the ladies were trying to say on the panel, including myself.
But you have two men that you have at least two, and I'm pretty sure Lost in Translation's got some stories too that have had some pretty rough upbringings. And nobody, to my knowledge, no one sat either one of them down and said, "Hey, here's A, B, and C of how you get through this." Yet we're all here.
But the thing is, the men that you described, right?
Yes.
Saying that these are the men that you get school shootings from and all that stuff, because they never learned how to deal with their emotions. That's why they're acting the fool.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get that with people who have dealt with their emotions and stuff, or get help or whatever. It's like, yeah, I spoke of crying because that's what I was told not to do.
Yeah, but nobody could have said that to you. You know like that's what I'm saying. Like that's a terrible thing to say to you.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you know what I'm saying?
That frustrates me that somebody had the gall to say that and put that level of expectation on you, because that's not a burden that you were meant to carry, period. I'm like sorry and frustrated that somebody put that on you, because that's not right.
But this was my dad, and my dad was never taught.
Yeah, but he put an expectation that was a burden for him to carry onto you. You were not him. Right. You're different. So that should have never been placed on you. If you would have said that to like a son, I'd have been like, okay, like I would have been like, let that ride. But like you,
but if
like
that's all my dad knows, if that's all my dad knows,
yeah,
that's what he's gonna do. He knew nothing.
So we got to get to Lost in Translation as well, but I'm going to circle back in just a minute. Now, this is a good conversation, guys. Lost in Translation. And I want you guys to focus on the words here. We're not saying that it's an issue for men to have emotions. We're not saying it's an issue for men to express emotion. The question here is, do men have issues managing their emotions because they haven't been able to even embrace or acknowledge that they do have emotions? Lost in Translation podcast, what's your perspective on that?
Here's my thing. Men have to be taught how to manage their emotions. I'll give you all the story. Me and my brothers and the guys in the neighborhood would like to play football or whatever. So one day, my brother was on the opposite team. And of course, they got the best of us. And I wasn't none too thrilled about that. So I hauled off and hit my brother slap in his chest. You know what I'm saying? And then my dad just so happened to see it. And he pulled me in the house and he was like, you know, son, I need to talk to you for a minute. He's like, look, you're going to have to reel that in. I'm going to tell you why. Number one, you're not supposed to hit your brother. Number two, you're getting bigger than me and you're going to be stronger than me someday. And what's going to happen is you're going to get into a fight with somebody and you're probably going to get the best of them. And what's going to happen is somebody's going to probably take the other person's side because you're bigger than them. He said, that's life. That's not fair. I'm going to have to teach you how to manage your emotions. You can't just haul off, hit people because you're going to hurt somebody. Okay. So what he did was he channeled and taught me how to channel my anger. He started putting me in other forms of extracurricular things. And I'm going to tell you why that works. Because most men identify themselves with aggression. And if you can see yourself outside of aggression, then you don't have to rely on aggression. You know what I mean? I'll give you an example. Sometimes when we get on these podcasts or whatever, sometimes the women are pretty much intelligent. They get the best of the guys, and then all of a sudden, you know, the guys want to be like, you hear what I said? And they want to haul off and they want to go after the women. You know what I'm saying? But in the back of my mind, I don't have to do that because I'm highly intelligent. I don't have to worry about, you know, going around the mountain and flexing muscles or whatever, because I have intelligence to lean on. I already know what they're going to say before they say it. You know why? Because I'm very well read. You know what I mean? I lean on the educational portion of it. Also, what my dad noticed, he was like, you're going to have to learn how to deal with other emotions besides anger. You know what I mean? You're going to have to deal with disappointment. So what he did was he put us in football. Well, guess what? The other guys were bigger than me. So I had to learn how to take a whooping every now and then and not haul off and hit somebody else because they got the best of me. You know, learn to dust yourself off, get back up, do better, manage your emotions. You know what I mean? You don't want to haul off and just hit somebody. You know what I mean? That type of thing, because you might hurt somebody or somebody might hurt you. You know what I mean? You have to be taught those things. Those things have to be groomed inside of you as a young man early, because if not, you're going to be relying on frustration and anger to be your compass. Now, also to fix that, my grandmother spent a lot of time with me, and you can probably tell she took me to church every Sunday because she put that word down in me. You know what I mean? I had questions. You know, I'm like, well, Granny, what about this portion of the Bible? What about this? Well, son, let me explain to you about this. And I used to have conversations with her all the time. I used to listen to her talk to other people as she was teaching other folks. And at the same time, I learned that you can also express emotions by listening to other people and also having empathy. That is something that men are not necessarily good at. When you learn how to show empathy, it allows you to have a moral compass that allows you to treat people with a certain level of decency. And I think what happens is if you don't go out and you don't teach your children how to respect others, and if you don't teach your children to have a certain level of empathy, you're going to get what we've got today. Now, here's the thing about that. It takes a lifetime to build that into a person. Because think about it. People are going to say kids are going to be kids, but you're going to have to mold kids each and every single day. And you can't miss an opportunity to slide those little lessons in. Now, they slid them into me while I wasn't paying attention, but I was paying attention. You know what I mean? Because I was very intelligent, very smart child. And my dad knew that. So he took the opportunity to say, I'm gonna max him out. I'm gonna see what he can do. He taught me, he said, look, I'm gonna let you learn how to play the piano. I'm gonna put you in honors courses in school, AP physics, math, chemistry, anything you can get your hands on, I'm gonna keep pushing you so I don't have to rely on brute strength. Gentlemen, you cannot force your way and fight your way out of every single situation. Sometimes you're gonna have to think on your feet. I'll give you an example. I work from home and I live in the hood. You know, I'm ain't too ashamed to say it, but look, here's the thing. There's people outside who like to play their music really, really loud. So one day I was on the phone with a customer. I work from home. God blasting this radio. Man, let me tell you, I got mad. I was like, I said, man, I'm gonna place you on a brief hold. I'll be right back. Put on hold, came back outside. And the first thing I thought was I'm gonna go out there and say something to him. And I looked at him in his eye. I said, hey man, I work from home, man. I can't hear my folks, man. Can you turn that down? Oh, my bad. That could have went one or two ways. I had to think on my feet. A, this man know where I stay at. You see what I'm saying? B, I can have visitors over here and they can shoot them trying to hit me. You see what I'm saying? So those are the things you have to think about on your feet when you're faced with certain situations like that. Sometimes it's not always crying. Sometimes it's managing your rage. Sometimes it's managing and leveraging your strength. But if you're not taught that, then guess what? You're going to fly off the handle. You're going to use what you know. And most guys know strength because that's all we do. We roughhouse each other's. But as men, we have to be developed. And it takes time to do that. But my thing is who's going to do that? A lot of people like to call it emotional intelligence. I call it your dad being a dad and being a father to you. And I think dads are important, especially the young men.
Excellent stuff. That was dope. That was really dope. Guys, I want to say this. So this is kind of unpopular, but ladies, quit teaching your sons to cry. And I'm going to tell you why I say this. when you're teaching your sons to cry you're teaching them how, when you deal with difficulties, to stop there and cry about it as a way of dealing with the situation. This is why men are so important, because we don't mind you crying. We'll tell you that your tears mean something. But one of the critical things that men do is we teach our kids to work through the tears. That the way what's coming out your eyes should not be something you use to feel sorry for yourself and to stop. But to what did Lost in Translation podcast say? You channel this. You channel your emotions to continue being productive. What's happening now is because we fought for this idea of equality. What we are doing is we're trying to make men and women, equal in terms of our experience. I'll say it like this: if you go and look at, I look at the animal planet. Different animals have different diets. So what lions eat are different than what rhinoceroses eat, right? It's just different. We're trying to feed men and make men based off of the diet of what makes a woman a woman. And this is why we keep on having men who don't know how to handle situations, is because they have the diet of what makes a woman a woman. So a woman, has her feelings. She operates out of her emotions. You give a man that diet with his brute strength, you got tragedy all over America. So it's important, ladies, don't teach your sons to cry. Teach your sons how to manage their emotions, particularly for single mothers and for fathers. It's important that we teach our sons that your emotions are to be the passenger in the passenger seat. They should never be behind the steering wheel. There's something to have. It's something that gives you perspective, but it shouldn't be used to give direction to anything that you do. Because if you connect a man's emotion with his strength, he would destroy some stuff and he won't even realize it. If you guys have got sons or brothers, when a boy finds out he's strong, he don't know he that strong until he played too much and he thought he was, being gentle, and he don't bust somebody's lip. He didn't know he was that strong. So you couple that with a man who doesn't know how to manage his emotions, and you guys can assume the damage that he can create. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
I mean, what we've been talking about is managing your emotions, no matter who you are. It's bad for anybody to not know how to manage their emotions.
I agree. However, I'm gonna caution it with this, because again, I don't know a man's biology. I'm a woman. When my son is crying and his father is there, like there was a situation with a dead cat. I was there to help my son understand that connection he had with that cat and that relationship that seemed special to him. However, his father told him, go to your room, have your feelings, but in about 2 hours, I need you back up because we got something else to do. So I think that both men and women are useful in terms of their respective natures to help children through emotions. But I don't think like for instance, me telling my son's father, like, don't tell him not to cry. I think on one hand that would definitely start an argument with him. But two, I don't want my son seeing me do that to his father, because then now that's another issue on top of an issue. And then three, it's kind of his job to regulate when it's time to stop crying and get back to work. It's kind of my job to kind of hold him as long as he need me to. But his father's job is to come and get him out of my arms when it's time for him to now move forward. And there was a scene in the movie 300 that was particularly interesting,
Right.
Where the woman's son had to be taken from her and she was crying, and they was going to throw him literally in the woods. But never mind that.
They did throw him in the woods, right?
Right.
They did. They put him out there with the wolves.
Like left him alone too. But the way she was narrating it, it was like, this is part of being a mother, that you you have to come to a point with your son specifically where it's going to pain you to let go emotionally, and for them it's going to be emotional tearing. But this must happen, and usually it's the men's natural position to be the one to do the tearing. Like, it's not our job to be tearing and stuff, because that's just not our makeup. But I agree that like you said, Ray, men's usefulness historically has been their ability to not sit and cry about circumstances, but make moves. However, I do think that, and I think you said it too, that there's a time and place to shed your emotions. However, the time you got to cry is very short because of your station in life. So, I mean, honestly, as a woman, I feel sad for you, but I'm sure you'll get over it because you're a man.
Well, I mean, it's just, again, we're not the same. You guys are so much better in that realm, in that retrospect. It's a yin and yang concept. If you're going to have a full society, I'm not saying that everyone should run around being like me. What I am saying is, if you're a person who stops and cries, you can never beat me at anything. Because I know your weakness. I'm just going to make you cry. And then I'm going to keep it pushing. I'm going to take your stuff. I'm going to put you out of business. Like, it's what, like, any realm, like, the issue is the competition doesn't stop. But, like, that's the reason, like, if you, women, it's yin and yang. Like, you don't have two hard people. You have one hard person and one soft person. And that makes, like, a unit that can rear a child that has the best of both worlds, right? But then also knows that, like, depending on how that child is coming into the world, that they've got a job to do. It's like, I'm just saying that as men, I don't think that it's beneficial to young men to try to raise them with the emotional mentality of a female. I don't think it's beneficial at all.
You know what? And I think that's true. I think this is something that I'm glad ladies are saying. Lola, I respect you bringing up 300. I respect that. Most women I know don't bring up that. That's my favorite movie. I respect that. So
it's Slaughter.
Yeah, like listen, I was about to say it, but I tried to compose myself. But you know what? But I think to that point, that shows that women understand that men have emotions and they know their role on how to facilitate the expression of it. And I think that's what we're trying to get at. I think that's what we should all be working on. So anybody final thoughts on this segment? And then we're going to move on. Anybody final thoughts? Excellent.
Sir Hill, I have to totally agree with you because I remember when my son was a toddler, he would come to me crying. And I would be like, I would get down to his level, want to talk over him. I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong? Are you hungry? No, mommy. Are you tired? No, mommy. Why are you crying? At the end of the day, he wouldn't even know why he's crying because we worked it out. We worked through it. And that, in fact, taught him, I've always given him that safe space. Look, you're allowed to express yourself. You're allowed to say whatever's on your mind, but just keep in mind who you're talking to and keep it respectful. And it's always been our platform. And he's 17 now. And we talk about everything. He's even had to tell me sometimes, Mom, turn it down a notch. Let's go ahead and go into our rooms. We're going to take a 24-hour cooling period and we'll come back and engage tomorrow morning. My 17-year-old did that to me. And I had to respect him because he's actually applying what I have taught him. So you're absolutely right. We don't have to express their emotions, but crying is not one of them because then they'll do it in public. And you know the scrutiny they'll go under if one of their boys see them crying. And, you know, the little sister's going to go after them. Oh, you was crying. You're a big baby. So, Sir, you're absolutely right. Us as mothers, especially single mothers, because a lot of these young men are portraying the characteristics of emotional women because they don't have that father figure or that male influence in the house. So you're absolutely right. That crying is for the birds. It's okay to cry, but you just have to know when to cry.
But also, sis, a lot of them women don't have no control of their emotions. So
she's right.
You're right. You're right too. But the segment was about men. You're absolutely right. Because they mama crazy. It trickles downhill.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to teach what you don't know.
Right.
You guys, so I will say this, and this is to throw a little monkey in the wrench, a wrench in the. Yeah, y'all know what I'm saying. It's late. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. So here's the thing, though. So in being masculine and being tough, which I'm an advocate for. If you guys know me in real life, come on, I'm one of those. I like to work, take care of my family, and this is what I do. But there is something to be said about managing emotions because men like this, while we may not be all sad and stuff, some of us do drink. Some of us do got to express ourselves you know, have different bars or with different women. So I do think that while we cannot
Suffer in
weaken our men,
silence.
we
Yeah.
exactly. We still do have to find a better way to manage our emotions. So anyway, guys, I'm going to play this next clip. We're only spending 5 minutes on this one, guys. 5 minutes. All right. Everybody gets 60 seconds because this ties into something that Embrace just said.
Okay.
Let's take a listen to what this sister says, that women don't listen.
I want to start off by saying I have 3 brothers. I had 4, but one of them passed away in 2011. So I have 2 older brothers and 2 younger brothers. And based on my interaction with my brothers, I can tell you, as men, they're doing everything they can to be the best fathers, the best men that they can be based on our background, what we were exposed to as children. They're doing their best. So I have empathy for men. I have compassion. I have understanding. And I have respect, because I see the way a lot of women treat men, and it's just downright disrespectful. It is disrespectful. One of the things that I had to learn, and my father called me out on that, is when he's talking or anyone is speaking, allow them the opportunity to say what they want to say. If you are having an issue with a man, if you're in a marriage, you're in a relationship, it's probably because you don't listen. I told my brother, he had issues with my oldest brother. He had issues with his wife, his girlfriend. They're not married yet. And I said, I've noticed a pattern with women. We don't listen. We do not listen. Give the man the respect and the courtesy to hear him out. I know you want to show him how smart you are. I know you want to help him get to the conclusion. I know that. But you're disrespectful by cutting him off. I knew this lady, and she would say how her husband was long-winded. Oh, he's so long-winded. But this is the same person that I would be on the phone with, listening to tell me the same story over and over and over again. But she didn't have the courtesy to listen to him. And she didn't have the courtesy.
So you guys heard this. I could have played this whole thing. What do you guys think about this? It has been traditionally assumed that women are conversationalists. And for the most part, women can run in circles in conversation for most men. It's true. But are women as good at listening as they are at talking? Let's start with the men first. Lost in Translation podcast. It's on you.
Here's my thing. TD Jake said a long time ago, he said, men talk in straight lines and women talk in circles. And sometimes you have to allow them to get out whatever they need to get out. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, they need to understand that men are direct. You know, just get to the part. You know what I'm saying? What we need to talk about. And I think what happens is women automatically assume that men talk like they talk. They assume that they communicate like they communicate. You know what I mean? And that's not always the case. Sometimes we just want to, you know, tell us what we need to do so we can get it over with. But some women want to run it into the ground as if it's punishment, and they keep repeating themselves over and over and over again. And it does something to men after a certain point, after you've said it about 3-4 times, men's hearing just stops. They don't want to hear it no more because you didn't get to the point yet. We're going to listen to the point where action is needed, and then we're going to move on. But for the most part, no, they don't. They really don't, to be honest.
Okay. Reckless Ray, I see the torch. What's your thought? Well, women have been traditionally thought to be conversationalists, but are they
Y'all already know.
Are they as equally equipped to listen as well? What's your thought?
I think that it's an issue that most people have, and I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to follow directions. I'm going to reel it back in. Most people, when engaged in debate, are only listening to respond. They are not listening to understand. And it's that simple. If a woman's in her emotions and you going back and forth with a woman, especially if you go back, like I don't advocate for going back and forth with a woman, period. But you're going back and forth with a woman, she gets in her emotions. She is no longer listening to understand. She is listening to respond. So your listening skills, like, they're non-existent if all you're doing is listening to someone to respond, because you're not actually listening at all.
So you done yet?
Yep.
No. You know what I mean? That's what it's saying. You done?
Yep.
Can I speak? Like, you didn't hear nothing I said, woman. You hear nothing I said. So absolutely, that's a good point.
Yeah.
hold on, ladies, but now listen, I know y'all angels and whatnot. I need to ask y'all something. Now, ladies, y'all need to be real to me. I'm gonna know if you lie to me. I'm gonna know. I'm gonna look at you now. I'm looking at each one of you right now. I can tell if you lie to me. Have y'all ever been a woman who said, "Are you done yet? Can I go now? Can I speak?"
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Now, Lola. Now I'm gonna get to you in a second. You and me for a minute. I'm gonna get to y'all in a second. I'm gonna get to both of you. Latricia, it's so while women have been traditionally thought to be conversationalists, are women as equipped to listen as they are to converse or to communicate their ideas or feelings as well? What's your thought on that?
I think it depends on how she feels about the person and how interested she is in what he's saying. And I kept it under 60 seconds.
Excellent. Okay. Now, Lola, let me get to you, Lola. Now, so traditionally, women, women can talk. Women can talk in circles, but are they as equipped? Are women as equipped to listen as they are to speak as well? What's your thought on that?
I think Ray makes a good point. I do think women are equipped to listen. We are. We tend to be real keen on listening when it comes to things that threaten our homeostasis. Like we can't. However, like Ray said, when someone's in their feelings, as we like to say in our culture, right? The me being more concerned about what's coming out of your mouth so I can make sure I got every word is not as prevalent as me saying you just need to hear how I feel right now. And I don't think that's just a female thing. I've seen that equally across the board. That's not a female thing. And one thing I do hate is when women say, well, this is what we do. It's like, no. Speak for yourself. Because I'm the type, I tell somebody, say whatever you gotta say to me. Make sure you get it out. And then you probably gonna have to ask me something in real life, not on panels, but in real life. I let you say whatever you're gonna say, and people know. Be careful how you speak to me and what you say to me, because my next move, not my next statement, but my next move is gonna be based on what you say. So at some point, yes, I'll speak with you, and it may seem a little touchy, but I like if I'm in my emotions and you in your emotions and we're not agreeing, I know how to say, okay, I agree to disagree. Now, what's the next decision that I need to make to keep everything kosher? And usually that's a male trait, but I grew up under my father and I kind of picked that up from him a lot. So that's something I know I get from him. But I'll be honest with you, like, no woman, when she's happy with a man and he's talking to her and she's like into everything he's saying, sits there and over talks him and just wants him to know how she's feeling in the moment, when she's just kind of like in love with just watching him talk and seeing how his hair below. Nobody's doing that when they're like feeling each other. But when they in their feelings, now suddenly it's like, no, let me get this out. It's like, I get it, you're in your feelings, but let's just be grown enough to say, you know what, right now I'm in my feelings and I just don't like the fact that you're talking. Like, let's just be honest.
Dang, Lola. Well, so Lola, let me take your example and say it this way. So let's not take the negative, take the positive. So sometimes women, they can be excited and a man is sharing something and she wants to finish his sentences or she wants to, insert while he's talking.
Mm-hmm.
It's that as well. So sometimes women, it's not a bad, they don't mean harm in, talking, with their man. Sometimes they're so excited that they start speaking. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily negative.
Right. It's not negative all the time. I see that a lot, for instance, with twins, like all the time when they get really excited, they're like going back and forth, and it's like one conversation going back and forth. And obviously, if you're not a twin, you don't really understand. But that can be irritating if you're not a twin. But I've seen that. But to say, well, women like to do that. I've seen plenty of men do that. But you have to really be really connected with someone to be finishing their sentences and y'all are going back and forth like that, even if it's in that way. But again, who complains about it when everybody's happy? People only complain about getting cut off when they're not happy. But if I'm cutting you off to say, and you know what, I'm about to give you another 500. Guess what? Like, nobody's gonna be like, oh my God, you cut me off. Like, nobody does that. So it's like, let's just be honest. And I've had to come to a point where I had to be okay with people cutting me off at times, because I know if I should happen to cut them off, I want the same grace. So I allow people to cut me off, like in real life and on panels. It's like, okay, I thought I had a good statement, but let me write this down because I'm coming back, and let me let you cut me off, because trust me, in 10 minutes I might cut you off. And I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm not complaining about it. But see, when people complain about it and you can dish it out, but you can't accept it, now that's where the problem is. Like, that's where the problem is for me. I'm okay with cutting me off and saying, you know what, no, conversation over. Okay, but when I do that to you, keep the same energy like I got right now. Like that's all I expect.
Lola, you're asking for reciprocity. You're asking for way too much. Beautifully Animated Speaks. What's your perspective on this? So traditionally, is women are thought to be conversationalists, but the listening, are women as equipped to listen as they are to speak on a particular issue?
I know what that was triggering as hell. I do not like getting cut off. Like, shut up, shut up. No. No. I don't care if you think you know what I'm going to say. Shut up. And the whole talking in circles, I got myself out of that like a long time ago. I said what I said. What you mean is, no. I said what I said, and I meant what I said.
Did you hear what I said?
In that order. Thank you. In that order. Not no, you meant you. What you mean is this, that. No. I said what I meant. Exactly how I meant it.
We're gonna circle back. We're gonna circle back on that. Embrace the grace. What's your perspective? Are women as equipped to listen as they are to speak?
Absolutely not. We always think we're right. We always think our way is better. We always cut men off. We tend to listen to respond and not to really understand what the man is saying. And these are skills that you have to master as you mature and get older as a woman. Because when you're young, I used to be accused all the time, oh, you got a sassy mouth, you got this. But as you get older and you go through the healing process and you go through the counseling, you learn to listen. And I excuse my language, but you got to know when to shut the fuck up sometimes and just listen.
Amen.
If he's your man, you should respect what he's saying. If he's good enough to exchange bodily fluids with, if he's good enough for that, then he should be good enough to be silent and listen and then speak your piece afterwards. And that's something that I've had to be told. I got called on it. You interrupt too much. You're long-winded. You're this, you're that. So it's a skill that you have to master and you have to work on, and you have to take it in when somebody calls you on it.
Yep.
I love it. Okay, ladies, I'm gonna say this real quick. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna get on my soapbox for us. I'm gonna get on my soapbox. Y'all indulge me for us. I had some coffee, so I'm up right now. Ladies, I'll be hearing so many women say, this man is long-winded. This man talks, he just keeps on saying the same thing. Lady, you keep cutting him off. It's very difficult, to get through a conversation if you constantly have to interject. And here's what I've seen with so many women. Women don't get stuck on the concept the man is talking about. It'll be that one little word in there. She'll get stuck on that word and she'll take that word and it means something completely different than what he's saying it. And he's like, he got to keep reeling it back in. And if she's not mature, she will shut the conversation down. I don't want to talk no more. I'm done with this. You know what? You can keep on talking. It takes two to argue. And then they'll even throw Bible scriptures in here. You don't argue with no fool. Like, woman, I'm trying to have a productive conversation with you. Mm-hmm. And you done low-key called me a fool. No, I didn't call you no fool. Did you hear that? Did you hear those words come out my mouth? No, I didn't hear, but that's what you would say. And then men are just like, forget it. You crazy. I don't even want to talk. So women have to understand that when you're talking to a man and we're trying to get through a conversation, if you want to get through it, let that man speak and you listen with respect. I don't know where we get this from, where women are so defensive when they're a man. If a man is giving a woman a compliment, she'll take that for hours. You have never seen a woman stop compliments from her man. You've never seen it. Let a man hint at criticism and the conversation will get shut down very quickly. And I think it's because we assume that a man communicating is an attack, and you don't realize that a man who really loves you and is taking the time to communicate a problem, that man really loves you. Because if a man didn't, he's not going to open up and talk. And so women should respect that and just listen. All right, I'm done with my soapbox, guys. Any response to this?
You know what I noticed, Sir Hill? That the women who are really good listeners will actually reframe the question for clarity.
That's a
you know what I
fact.
mean? They will go up in there and they'll say, you know what?
Yep.
I heard you say
Recap.
this. You know what I mean? They'll say, hey, listen, this is what I heard you say. Or is this what you really want? Or it's under my understanding that you would like this to change. Is that correct? They would seek clarity. And those conversations move a completely different way versus somebody trying to gaslight you and make you say some stuff or think some stuff that you never really intended to say.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anybody want to listen? It's so good because
absolutely
ladies,
right,
you
'cause
can
I
have
do
whatever
that.
you want. Like, ladies, you can get whatever you want out of your man. You can get whatever you want. If a man comes to you because he's pissed off about something, and you go, y'all. I know some of y'all throw the gang signs up. You ain't never been in no gang in your life, ain't been on the street, but as soon as you throw the gang signs up and you about to go off, ladies, if you learn how to just neutralize a situation, sometimes you neutralizing it with some peace and some wisdom, it'll make a man, like, babe, I'm sorry, like I came at you the wrong way. What I was really trying to say was this. But we're so combative in our culture that if there's a perceived level of aggression, women don't back down anymore. Women go, oh, I am from the hood. You want to understand me? I'm from Bronx, baby. I'm from the west side of Chicago. Like, lady, listen, I didn't mean it like
PG
this.
County, you know what I'm saying?
Like you naming the schools you went to, the people you grew up around, the shows you used to watch. Now, what did this got to do with what we're talking about? So if women know how to neutralize, we're going to have a lot better conversations because we start to realize that the issue here is something to be worked out, but we are not each other's enemies. All right. Any final responses to this?
And I
got one.
I just want to say to your point, you make a good point. However, let's not forget that talking is a woman's strong point. And if she wants to hurt you, that's her ground. That's her fighting ground right there. When a man wants to fight you, he feels the same way you just said. When he see you doing that and you square up with him, like, oh yeah, good. You think you can beat me? Okay, let me hold my sleeves up and show you something. He get happy when you think you can beat him, just like we get happy when you think you can intellectually spar with us in a conversation. Like it's the same dynamics. It's just kind of expressed differently. But at the end of the day, I'm not condoning somebody saying, so what you saying, Kevin, is like, I'm not saying that attitude works, right? However, I mean, the nurturing part of it is something that, yes, you do need as a woman when you're in a conflict type conversation. However, as a culture, there's certain things that we do different, like when we're happy versus when we in an emotional circumstance. So, I mean, I don't want to put too much blame on any side, but at the end of the day, I just think we need to understand like each other in a way that's more active, because I don't want this to be like a talking point, like women need to just learn how to listen. It's like if life was that easy, we wouldn't be talking about this. So it's like for real, like listening.
Women need to learn how to listen. Go ahead, Lola.
It's just that easy.
I'm just saying, like I think it's nuanced, but
Lola, it is just that easy.
I'm telling you, people go to classes and college courses to learn how to speak to people and audiences, and they pay good money to listen to people break it down to them. It's not easy, and they be failing classes too. So yeah.
Did you hear what I said?
I'm telling you. So Lola, so what you're saying is true. And Latricia, embrace y'all get in here. Y'all get in here. I'm saying this because, like, we go to school to learn how to talk in business, or how to win an audience, or how to communicate a point. In the context of personal relationships with somebody that I done seen you without no makeup on. I done seen you when you done took off all the push-up bras and ain't holding up. Or I done saw your feet, and your feet are terrible looking at. You got good shoes, but terrible. But I done seen the real you. I done smelled your fart. You don't smell like you look. You smell funky, right? So when you got that experience with somebody else, the conversation is different because you're not trying to impress. You feel a different level of comfort. So what you will say in that private conversation, you wouldn't say that's in public. So there's a difference there, right? And I'm saying that if a woman's words in anger is like a man's fist when he's angry.
Yes.
These are very same things.
Yes.
And so I'm saying if if women listen, it neutralizes stuff. Just like men have to show some restraint when some of these women be, poking him in the head and wishing he would. You see him say there's got to be some restraint there. So anyway, let me get Latricia, let me get Embrace,
You
and
get out
anybody
of
else
that
who wants to respond.
relationship.
Yeah. But you guys see what I'm saying though? In anger,
like
a woman's words. Yeah.
You see how they
First of
underestimate
all, you get out of that relationship. Keep your hands to yourself. And secondly, you said that the woman will be like, the Bible says you don't argue with a fool. What if the dude was like, you're right, bye. But calling the woman the fool. So, how would that go? How did that go?
I'm just saying, ladies, a listening woman is a dangerous woman. I'm just telling you what I know. A listening woman is a dangerous woman. She get whatever she wants. She don't even have to say nothing. Like, why am I doing this for this woman? A listener, I'm listening. I'm a citizen. I'm done. I'm a citizen.
Like,
you want to figure out who men cheat with? Men
it's
don't
like
cheat with women
taking
who
candy
talk.
from a baby.
Yeah, here's what I'm saying. Men don't cheat with women who talk a lot. Men cheat with women who listen. I'll leave it at that. If you ever see a man go dip out, it was with somebody who listened to him. Right? So if wives learn how to listen to their men, you could stop 50% of cheating. Now I'll give you the Pew Research because I know some of you guys want some stats on that. I'm gonna go plagiarize and make it up myself, but I'm gonna give you guys some stats on that. It's just what I believe, right? If women learn how to listen, they could slash cheating by 50%. By again, it's not research based. It's just what I believe. Anybody agree with that? That listening is listening.
Remember this. Hey, sir, remember this, Samson. Where do you get your strength from?
She listened to him.
The locks of my hair. And she was listening to him. You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to tell you.
The answer already there. The most dangerous woman is a listening woman.
That's a fact. Hey, I'm clipping that. Y'all heard it here. All right, ladies. Any response on this? Anybody else?
I do. Back in the day, way back in the day when I was a side chick. Yeah, I mean, I listen. I help them problem solve and stuff like that. Yeah.
I want to make sure I heard you clearly. You said back in the day when you had a side clip.
Back in the day. I was a side chick.
Ladies and gentlemen, this show just took a turn. All right, so with this being said, anybody got a final response on this? And then we're going to move into the meat of the conversation and we're going to end it. Yeah.
I stayed in my lane, though. Okay. That's what you said.
Giving the game away, ain't it?
Stay in your lane.
Now, y'all, this is some grown folks conversation. Now, what we're saying is there's some real elements to why people do what they do. And you've never seen a listening woman. All right, I'm gonna say this for the next segment. Any final comments on this particular segment by anybody? Okay, good. So we're gonna move forward. All right, guys.
I'm laughing at Lady Novoa. Talk about shame.
Hey guys, so I'm going to so the reason why we're doing this show is because we if you've been around social media, been watching the news, you've seen the issue with our Carlishia Hood and her son, where they're in a restaurant and they're ordering some food at this particular restaurant, and there's an altercation that occurs while they are picking up their food, right? So they're picking up the food. Some words are exchanged by Mrs. Hood and by another gentleman. A sort of argument or altercation ensues where it escalates from words to physical assault. So the man who is now, he's passed away due to, being, shot, he's passed away, that altercation, that exchanged, the words escalated into physical violence, and it resulted in somebody being shot, someone passing away, and the lady and her son, doing some jail time. Now Now, Carlishia Hood has been, released, based off of the evidence that was found. But here's my question, and this is the whole premise for the show. Because while this is a very tragic, event, it's a very sad event. My question for everybody here tonight, and just observing what occurred, is there a way that this situation could have been avoided? Right. So again, we take into account the whole situation. The gentleman who was the aggressor, who actually balled up his fist and hit a woman, which I think that's weak for any man to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if we look at this objectively, and I'm going to keep this conversation open, I really want to hear your responses. How could this situation have been avoided? And I'm doing this because I think that in today's world, we don't know how to handle conflict. You know what I mean? Like, especially with people of color, it's got to escalate. If you do something to me, I gotta go there. You know what I mean? And I want to get you guys to start on this. So, Lost in Translation podcast. Let's start with you. Just looking at this situation, just for what it is, how could this situation have been avoided?
Proverbs 15:1 says, "A soft word turns away wrath, but harsh words stir up anger." I think that could have been avoided if everybody just stopped talking, man. Like, for real. Because he's like, if you keep talking, I'm gonna hit you. That's warning before destruction right there. You know what I'm saying? True, he shouldn't have hit her or whatever, but at the end of the day, that could have been de-escalated by everybody just, getting calm and say, you know what, it's not worth it. Because you don't know who you're dealing with. And not only that, the guy didn't know what was going on. He didn't know he was gonna get shot by putting hands on folks. He probably thought the old man was gonna say something, but not for real. That old man, like, he was finna get ready to get up out of there. He wasn't finna stand between him and that lady. You know what I mean? And definitely the cooks wasn't finna do it. You know what I mean? So at that point, he thought he was gonna get the ups on her. But in this particular situation, he kind of didn't. He didn't know where that was coming from. So all he really had to do was just calm down and apologize and say, hey, you know what? I had a long day. Ma'am, I apologize. Or she could have just said, you know what? That's okay. I understand, or whatever. But cooler heads could have prevailed. But for some reason, we don't know how to talk to each other. And that thing escalated out of hand, resulting in somebody losing their life and two people going to jail for a little while.
Right. So to you, how could this situation have been avoided?
It could have been avoided if everybody knew their place. In what world do women engage in back and forth with men they don't know outside of the covering of their men? Like, period. Like, it's just not safe. It logically, it doesn't make sense, and it's something that only happens in a first world country where we don't have actual problems or actual consequences. Like, there's no reason. Like, my chick, she does not talk to men she doesn't know outside of my presence, period. Like, to the tune that, like, she will not go through a checkout line if there's an option to go through a checkout line with a woman. She doesn't deal with men. At no point will she ever run into that scenario, because the man would have to come bring the problem to her, in which case she's going to make a phone call and it's going to get handled. But the blatant lack of respect within the community, because you have to take into account where they were at. Like, that wasn't just your average place. Like, that place, it's a brolic environment, and that's just how people are navigating. But it's not just the men that are navigating. Like, in days of old, we used to talk about it. You got a brolic environment. It's the men that are running around acting crazy. Now it's the men and women, and these women are going to the men as though, like, hey, like, they all about that action. That's not the way stuff is supposed to work. Like, that should have never happened. Like, you shouldn't hit women, but, like, women, you shouldn't be stepping to men and arguing with men in public. Everybody's been stuck at home for at minimum a year. These people are crazy out here, and you just got to find the right one. And when the stars align, something tragic like this happens. And it could have gone the other way. That's the other thing that nobody's talking about. Like, I mean, we can comment on that dude not knowing how, like, looking at that video, that man had an emotional reaction to whatever was said, however that conversation went, but he wasn't striking with the intent of causing violence. He was striking out of emotion. Now, if that would have been a man striking with the intent of engaging in actual violence, that woman wouldn't have made it past 2 strikes. And all that could have gone a different type of way. They both could have been up out of here. That kid could have lost his mother real quick. It doesn't take much to put a person off this planet with your hands, and people don't understand that. Like that, for somebody who knows what they're doing and what they're swinging for. Like, it should have never happened. Like, we've got to do better. Like, there has to be some level of order. Otherwise, we're going to keep seeing this over and over again. It's going to get worse.
Ms. Latricia, how could this situation have been avoided?
I think it goes back to the conversation we had about men learning how to manage their emotions. I think if he would have better managed his emotions and she would have listened to him when he gave her the warning, I think both sides were in the wrong. Honestly, she could have listened to what he told her is going to be some problems if you don't be quiet. And I get it. Like, nobody wants to be told what to do, especially another adult. But I feel like common sense is not as common as it used to be. Like, if we're in a situation and I can see you're angry, whether I did something to you or not, I can see that you walking up on me, you swelling up on me. I'm just going to be quiet to de-escalate it, because for me, like, it's not worth whatever it is about to come. I don't know you. Because I don't know you, if you telling me to be quiet or else, I'm going to be quiet because I don't know what that or else is. Now, I'm not saying he was justified, because like I said, he could have better managed his emotions. Like one of the gentlemen said, I'm sorry, I don't remember which one, but you could have just said, I had a long day and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come at you like that. Or he could have just brushed it off and let it go. Like, I think both sides were in the wrong. Honestly, she could have listened and he could have managed his emotions better.
That's good stuff. Lola, what about you? If you look at this situation, you take a step back, a 30,000-foot view, and then you zoom in, how could this situation have been avoided?
It's kind of hard for me to say how, because when I first seen this story, my first instinct was, why did you even go into that neighborhood? But then I'm like, that could happen at a Walmart where I live at. So that wasn't an excuse. But then it's like, when I looked at the tape, I couldn't hear what she was saying. I could tell she was calm. She wasn't really like angry. And I know a lot of people would look at her and say, well, she was upset. But it's like, again, culturally, the way we talk to each other comes off to non-Black people like we crazy and we be calm. So I'm like, she wasn't upset. She was just talking. Now, clearly he was getting upset. But in America, we not bred for somebody to tell us be quiet or else you're going to get put down, as in literally just stop talking and I'm going to put you down. Like, if the government said that, January 6th would be every day of the year. Like, so, like, we just not bred like that out here in the Americas to react like someone in the Middle East. And so I mean, I agree with Latricia that initially with him, you didn't manage your emotions, and you up in Chicago, that you didn't read the rules of the land. You went up there acting crazy, and I ain't even from there, and I already know that ain't gonna fly. I just know that. So that right there is where it begins. But because I didn't see the beginning of that conversation, I can't say, well, she didn't listen to him, because I didn't really hear a conversation. I heard him just yelling, and then her kind of like I could see she was talking, but I couldn't hear what she was talking. I didn't catch the beginning of the conversation. Somebody said they were arguing over whose space it was in line. I don't know, but that's kind of weird to me. Like, two adults are like, what else do you say? But I don't know, so I can't really give you a definitive answer on what would have worked, because we can say she could have listened, but then again, what if she was responding to him because she did listen to a statement made prior to when the camera came on? Like, I don't know. But it's like at the end of the day, I know that men understand, especially when you're in a highly violent type of neighborhood, that whether whether you're dealing with a woman or a man, if you incite violence, you have to be violent. Period. And just because it's a woman doesn't mean that a gun can't get pulled out at any given moment by anybody and hit you. And the idea is, I don't believe that he felt, or I'm gonna get the better of her because that's a female, not in Chicago. Maybe Key West, Florida, but not Chicago. Not Chicago. I just know too much. I know my people too well. You knew that this was a possibility and you took that chance. Just like she knew it was a possibility, he might smack her. But she was engaging with him instead of just saying, you know what, I don't want this hot dog. She took a chance just like he took a chance. We all adults. And here's the thing, when you take the chance, you run that risk. So, you know, you gotta grow some tough skin when stuff happens. But I'm not gonna say she should have listened, because I don't even know if she was listening. I just know he was yelling.
Good stuff. Beautifully Animated speaks. How could this situation have been avoided?
Well, first let me answer you, sis Lola. One of the scenarios I heard was that she had put in an order for her food. She got there and her food wasn't right. And so she was having them fix her food. And he was getting impatient. And that's how the fight started. And to you, Sir Hell, you can't fix stupid. Therefore, you cannot save stupid. And so that dumbass is going to die anyway. Had it been me, once you threaten me, I can no longer turn my back on you. So how am I going to get out? Okay.
It's been a good show, everybody. You guys have a good night. Thank you guys for coming tonight. Really appreciate you. Okay. Embrace the grace. How could this have been avoided?
Okay, I've had time to think about this because as a woman, you emotionally think about it. Oh, hell nah, he hit her and da da da. But you have to look at the whole forest versus the trees in front of you. Yes, this absolutely could have been avoided. First disclaimer, I do not condone violence and I do not agree of him hitting her. But let's layer it all the way to the back. What is a woman doing at 11 o'clock at night in the Chicago streets at a hot dog stand? Go cook. Why are you out at 11 o'clock at night putting yourself in hostile environment? That's how this could have been prevented. Then you see the man is a loose cannon. Then he warned you twice, shut up, stop talking, and you still want to go in. Hold on, I know you still want to go in. He got killed for yelling. That's how it really initially started. And then you want to be rah, 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 but you asked your 14-year-old son to go get a weapon, and now you put that on your son? Why didn't you grab the weapon and pull the trigger? Why would you put that on your son? Now we have a child that's going to be traumatized for the rest of his life because you couldn't stay at home and cook at 11 o'clock at night in these Chicago streets, and your order was wrong. Yes, this could have been avoided. A lot of us women, or let's say people, get into situations that could have been prevented. A lot of it is self-inflicted. When I hear, oh, this person got robbed at the ATM, the first thing I think is, what time am? 3 o'clock in the morning. Then you know what? You kind of asked for it. You know, this is the world we live in. We got to move different. Why wasn't she with her brother or with a man at 11 o'clock at night with a hot dog at a hot dog stand? Again, I'm going to reiterate, ladies, he wasn't right for hitting her. He wasn't right for yelling at her. But the man lost his life because you couldn't just back down.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares that he lost his life. That
we couldn't hear nothing. We couldn't hear nothing. So how are we going to put everything on her?
It doesn't matter. He told her, be quiet. Say something.
It does matter. It does matter.
He told
because
her.
she could have stopped saying whatever. She could have stopped talking to him, right? She could have stopped talking to him and be talking to somebody else. He still hears her voice. He can still go off. He's a stupid person.
It's an evil world we live in.
You cannot reason with stupid people. You cannot reason with stupid people. And then he got angry on top of that. That makes it even worse. And to the no cooking thing, people don't cook no more.
Talking.
People don't cook no more.
You know
Yeah,
what?
but
This whole
you're out in the
conversation.
streets of Chicago at 11 o'clock at night. You gotta come on. You're putting your
But
son. Why
Embrace,
is your
we
14-year-old
can't
out at
police
11 o'clock at night?
You know
Embrace,
what?
we
This
can't police people like that. You're telling me that if let's suppose she was driving through town, like I drive through Philly when I go to New York, and I might be driving up there to meet somebody for the next day, and I'm stopping at a hotel. You telling me because I need cash and I stop at the ATM on my way to New York that I'm asking to be robbed? Like I'm on the highway, I need cash real quick. It's like it's not enough to
Yes,
say
you
he
should have
was
better
wrong.
planned.
No,
Yes.
it's not enough to say he
You
was
should have
wrong.
better planned
If
for your
he,
trip.
but no, that's not a better plan for the trip. I bank with Chase. Come on now,
Wait,
stop.
wait a minute.
All
Wait a
I'm
minute. Wait a
saying is
minute.
it's not enough to say he was wrong. If he was wrong, you're putting the onus on him. She's not wrong for taking her son to a hot dog stand. She's not wrong because they got her order wrong and she was trying to get it right. She's not wrong because they were taking a long time and he had to do like an adult and had to wait extra. She's not wrong for that. Don't question why she's out as an adult with her son. I don't know if she called her son in there to do anything. I haven't seen no evidence of that. But I tell you what, in Chicago, if she did do that, she would still be in jail. I bet you that.
No, she actually did. That's a fact.
No,
Yep.
If they found evidence that was because of her, I'm sure the authorities would have.
They have audio of it.
I don't
It's
know
on the audio.
But wait a minute, I don't know what happened. All I know is the authorities
have
locked
audio
her
of
up.
it. And it was even before he hit her.
Wait a minute, Embrace. Listen, the authorities locked her up and did an investigation based on the laws in Chicago. They let her go. Now that she might not have got away with that in Texas, I don't know. But at the end of the day, don't sit and don't victim shame here to say, well, she shouldn't have been buying a hot dog. She shouldn't have wore the dress she had on. She shouldn't have had the scarf. She shouldn't have had that bass in her voice. She shouldn't have had a child. She shouldn't have stopped for the money. She shouldn't. Listen, if he was wrong, leave it there. Nobody cares that he lost his life. People lost their life that same day.
What accountability does she have?
So wait a minute.
He lost his life. Period.
Wait a minute. And so this is
what accountability does she have then?
Well, no, look at this. Look at it this way. As a person who's traveled all over this country, we had a competition in Detroit. Now I live in Kansas City, grew up in one of the worst neighborhoods in Kansas City. When we were in Detroit, we always stop off at a diner on our way out of town when we're on the road. We stopped at Denny's. I looked in Denny's and we sat there and had a conversation in that car, and we decided that we wasn't going in that Denny's because it looked more brolic than what we were used to. And we were like, hey, bro, like we can navigate through some terrible stuff. We looked through the window and saw what was going on in that Denny's and came to the conclusion. We were like, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and continue this trip. We'll be hungry for another 40 minutes to get away from this because this doesn't look safe to us, having grown up in spaces that weren't safe. So if you're with your child, I think you should have more acuity than 4 dudes in a car that are just friends, because that's a child. As far as the accountability goes, we can stop it there. Was the dude wrong? Absolutely. Do you put yourself in situations to allow people to be wrong, or are we proactive, or do we run around like the world just doesn't exist? And as women, you can just do whatever the hell you want and consequences be damned till the consequence happens. If she had lost her life, this would have been a different conversation.
If he could have continued arguing and we wouldn't be having this conversation. He could have argued with her and followed her outside arguing. And if she would have pulled her gun on him, I would have said, now, if he kill you for pulling the gun on him, that's what you deserve, because he got a right to say what he got to say. I don't care if he followed you outside talking. He can talk in this country. That's what our ancestors died for. So at the end of the day, again, if she would have put her hands on him and he was the one in the corner and the police would have showed up and locked him up, I would have had a bigger problem with, why is you locking him up? He ain't hit her one time, but yet he's the one in the corner and you got this on tape and you locking that man up. I would have a problem with that. So it's not about, well, women get away with anything. It's about there's 2 individuals arguing over something. Arguments happen. It happens over dumb stuff. It happens. But at the end of the day, we all know where the line is. And I don't think he was too crazy not to know where the line is.
But it's the environment that they were in. They weren't tourists. They lived in that neighborhood. Like this is the thing. If you're
I drive to places like that I want to eat. And honestly, based on what I seen in that tape, it didn't look like something I wouldn't stop in if I was on the road and I wanted a hot dog.
Miss Oshun, I'm just going to stop you for a second. That kid, when he shot that man, That kid knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he did.
Most people, and I'll tell you why, because in most civilian involved shootings, a clip is empty because they're that adrenaline dumps. You squeeze that trigger till there's no bullets left. That kid specifically shot him, then let him get outside, then followed him outside and finished the job.
Yeah, because he
fired 3 shots.
Yes, he's a
3.
kid.
For someone to shoot someone an exact amount of times to end their life, that's a trained shooter. That's someone who knows how to shoot. This wasn't a happenstantial thing. Like this kid, they've shown the background on this kid. That kid's a shooter. He knows how to shoot.
He knows how to shoot. It's no crime in people knowing how to shoot. That's not a crime.
But what's happened is they violated all of Chicago's laws. Because Chicago is the worst Second Amendment state you could possibly be in, but they let this go down.
I get what you're saying, that the boy shot a man moving away from him. So the man was no longer a threat to him on the second shot. I get what you're saying.
Or the third.
That is from what I heard. That is an issue. But again, we're talking about a child, 13 years old, who is not adept in any way and not responsible for knowing the law to that degree in any state in the United States. So if we're looking at a child in a state of panic, yeah, they're probably going to commit some strange.
That's not a state of panic, though, Ocean. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
If you're saying
a state of panic, the clip is empty. In a state of panic, the clip is empty.
Hey guys. Whoa, guys. Let's let each other finish because it's kind of hard to hear everybody talking.
What I'm saying is he's a child, and that you can't hold him to the same standard as you're going to hold a man with a clear mind. That's not. He's going to do something wrong. At the end of the day, I'm not going to judge a child and say, "Oh, he wasn't in panic. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was this. He was this." That's not how we do things in the United States.
Okay,
he protected his mother. But what I'm saying is what you're saying, the inaccuracy in it is in a state of panic, the clip is empty. I know quite a bit about shootings. That's what happens. People do not go, oh my God, I panicked. And then they're like, yeah, I got like 8 more shots left in this thing just in case. Like, that's just not what happens. It's not.
Been loaded. I don't know.
Hold on. Let me try.
Okay.
So what Reckless is saying is you just look at him as a kid. You're taking away the fact that he was trained, and he is weaponry mature, right? And so therefore he was not in a panic when he shot the person. He knew exactly what he was doing. I know we don't have the audio, but you can see how calm he was. By reading body language, you still see how calm he was in that situation. That is not a person, a young man who was not prepared to pull the trigger if he had to, and he had to. So, to just keep on saying that he's a kid, when it comes down to the fact that he had to take a life to protect his mother, it takes away. It's almost like a disrespect to him, really, I feel, when you're put in that situation.
Most kids on the street are not defending their mother. They're just out there gang.
We're not talking about we're not talking about nobody on the street, though. We're talking about this kid.
No, I know what you're saying.
And I don't know if he has taken a life before or not. I just know he was trained on how to use his gun.
Hey guys, so I want to pivot off of the son, because I think if we focus on any one character, we can derive a whole lot of perspective on this.
Right.
My main focus is on how could this have been avoided? Like, so if I'm looking at this and I'm judging this, it's a couple things. It was a gun in that situation for a reason. You know, no one just walks around for the most part carrying that around, and then it's accessible. Like, just, typically you have that locked in a case, put away, because if you don't think you're going to need it. If it's that accessible, go to the car and go get it. There's a reason. That's number one. But the bigger question is, how could this have been avoided? And I'm saying this because somebody who's watching this now, this sets a precedent. And what I typically see is once this happens once like this, it happens again. Because now we're setting precedents that in a situation like this is how it's going to be handled. So I guess I'm asking you guys not just about the son and his age, but if you look at this, what would you say if you would have stopped it here, we could have avoided this whole situation? And but before you guys start, let me get Latricia in here, and then I want to get Embrace, and then let's get everybody else in here as well.
Honestly, I don't have anything additionally to say about it. I think, like what I said initially, I still stand by that. Even after listening to everybody else's points and views, like I get it. Now, I do understand when Lola was saying that we don't necessarily know that he was telling her to be quiet. So, her listening may not have been the issue, but just based off what I know from social media, like I still stand by what I said. She could have listened when he gave her the warning. He could have managed his emotions better, and neither one of them would have gotten to that place, especially if it was an argument over food or him being upset because her food was taken too, like whatever it was. I feel like you expect children to fight and argue over petty stuff. As adults, like, okay, I understand. I don't know you, sir, but you being a little hostile and aggressive, so I'm gonna just leave you alone. Ma'am, I don't know you. I had a bad day. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like both of them could have taken time to decide, like, okay, we're adults. We need to handle this situation better before it escalates, especially in Chicago on a summer night.
Anyone else? Embrace, it's on you.
I apologize if it seemed like I was victim shaming, but the question was, how could it have been avoided? He specifically asked her twice to stop talking. She didn't even ask her son to get the weapon. She hadn't even been hit yet. If you see that a man is acting irate and crazy like that, why not just be quiet, get your food, and leave quietly? But she continually engaged with him and did not back down. It's only she asked the son to get the weapon and she hadn't even get hit yet. So what? You were looking to go get a weapon just because you were being yelled at by the crazy man? I mean, the woman has to take some kind of accountability of what happened. She saw what was going on, de-escalated, especially the fact that you're with your son. You're the mom, you're the adult. You have to do better. And that's all I'm saying. We have to take preventive measures to avoid conflict, not add gas to fuel to the fire. That's all I was trying to say. But yes, he was wrong. Absolutely wrong. However, how could we have done better to de-escalate that and not have a lost life? Now that child is traumatized, and now she has the audacity to sue the city. Really? She needed to be worrying about leaving because they just found out that he was a member of the GD. So she, if y'all know anything about street life, if you GD, they coming for them. She needed to be worried about leaving Chicago instead of trying to sue them. And be grateful that the charges were dropped.
Well, that sounds like another reason for him to be so pumped up because he's in there, right? I can do whatever I want because of the group I'm with, and the gang I'm in. I can bully anybody. Lola said something about he was well within his right to argue and even follow her out if she walked out. No, he still would have got dropped. Thing is, when somebody is leaving an argument and we don't know each other, why are you following me? That is an open threat. You will get dropped. So no, he is not within. No one's strangers are not within their rights to follow someone who is exiting an argument. Leave them the hell alone. You don't know this person. You don't know what they have on them. You don't know their skills. Taken. I have a particular skill set. You know what I'm saying? But
always in short women. It's always a short woman. I told y'all this in another episode. It's always a short woman.
Hell yeah, I'm 5'2". So if you follow me, your ass is grass. Leave me the hell alone.
All right, guys, it's been a good show. You guys have to tell anybody else. got a response on this one?
I just
And then,
want to say,
and then I'm going to wrap it up in just a bit. But before we do this, guys, let me show some love to the people who gave the super chat. Let me do this, and Lola, I'm going to come right back to you. Shout out to We Unlock Nation. Good to see you, man. Hope all is well with you and family. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is going to go for my latte and my bagel in the morning. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Shout out to Robbie again. She says, how many of the panelists have actually watched in the real-time footage of the surveillance video? So I want to say most of us have. Again, the reason that I didn't stream it. Yeah, the reason I didn't stream it tonight is because YouTube has, policies against violence, and I didn't want to create any issues on my channel again. So I didn't stream it for that reason. But yeah, for the most part, we've seen that. So Lola, it's on you. You had something you wanted to say.
Well, okay. What I wanted to say is that and embrace this might be an American thing, right? It's culture. It's just a cultural taboo to say certain trigger words, do certain things to certain people and other people, and it things can escalate quicker with some people than with not. For instance, taking money from somebody. Certain groups, you spill the money on the floor, they might cuss you out. I know one group in particular, they hand their money out and you purposely drop it on the floor. That's enough to get you dropped right there. But that's a cultural thing. And it's like, at the end of the day, I know for me, and like, Beautifully Animated, I study martial arts. I would have been put him down before he even would have struck me, because his fighting stance is more than enough for me to take that as my life is in danger. If I was a trained police officer and I would have seen him doing that, I'm trained to shoot dead center. I'm not trained to yell out, stop it, stop it. If I see violence actually going down, I'm trained to pull my gun out, get ready, and shoot, and then figure it out afterwards. Hopefully he lived through that. But it's like, at the end of the day, we can't keep coddling crazy people. Like, if they crazy and they did something crazy and something crazier happened, I'm gonna be honest with you, we need to get some thick skin and just chalk it up to the game. I don't see where anything could have happened really went down better, because like she said, you change one element there, now it's something totally different. Like, I heard there was a girlfriend involved egging it on. Like, I heard that. I don't know. Like, all of that plays into it. And at the end of the day, women, we feel threatened faster than a man. A man might sit there and see him ball his fists up and really, like, I've seen one of the guys I was involved with turn his back to a dude like that one time and dared him to do something. Like, men respond differently than we do. So it's like, that situation is unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to say that there was much that could have really made that better, because you tell a black woman or any woman in America for real, say one more word and you ain't her man and you ain't paying her check and I'm going to hit you, you might as well go ahead and hit her. Like, I'm being honest, you might as well. Because most women would have hit him first, and we I grew up at. You going to hit me? Let's go now. She just kept talking about the hot dogs. I know women that would have squared up with him for real the minute that would have left his lips for real. And so it's like, it could have been worse. But at the end of the day,
that's the problem.
This is what happens. This is what happens. This is what happens.
Sorry, can I speak for a second?
Please.
If a crazy loudmouth man tells me twice to be quiet or else, I'm going to be quiet. And I'm going to listen, because my life is in danger and I have my son with me. What you have to figure out, what is more important, me engaging with a crazy deranged man at 11 o'clock at night in Chicago city streets, or me getting my food and me going home safe with my son? I carry too. And I still wouldn't have took out my weapon if I was in that situation, because you know what? It wouldn't have been worth it. He was just yelling and telling her to be quiet or else. Just be quiet.
No, she didn't. He didn't just tell her be quiet.
You don't think that would have worked? Be quiet.
And he didn't just say that. And honestly, she's not a fighter. She's not a trained fighter for real, to see that 10 seconds going in, she should have already put her food down and got ready for a fight. She didn't see that coming. I saw it coming. She didn't. She was kind of just sitting there like, this is a regular adult conversation. And then that just happened all of a sudden. She didn't think he was crazy enough to do that, clearly. I knew he was, but I'm a different type of woman than her. And I could see that coming.
I knew.
You might have saw it coming, but she didn't.
What question? What
before you guys go, we got to get lost in translation in there. He's been waiting for a little bit.
Sir, here's my whole thing. I think people need to take a step back to look at this thing for a minute. We already know that most men are going to go to the jail quicker than women anyway. Most kids are not going to go to jail. Most women are not going to go to jail right away. My thing is this, taking a step back, looking at this particular situation, it can be looked at as if the man was set up. You know what I mean? Because the gun was already ready. And to me, pulling out a gun on somebody who's using their fists seems a little lame. You know what I mean? Back in the day, if you wanted to fight somebody, it's fist and fist. It ain't like he pulled a gun out on his mama and shot her. You know what I'm saying? He just went from fist to I'm gonna kill you. You know what I mean? There's no escalations in between that. And my thing is this, the kids these days, it's just they don't know how to fight, man. He was scared. He said, I'm just gonna shoot him and be done with it. But my thing is this, it depending upon whether or not this was a political thing, just to go ahead and let them go, they could have charged her with child endangerment. You know what I mean? All kind of stuff. This whole thing could have went a whole different way. They could have said it was premeditated because he set them up. You know what I mean? Because she kept talking as if she knew she had the ace in her back pocket, like the big joker in the trump card. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to keep saying what I'm going to have to say. And he said, if you don't keep talking, I'm going to hit you. And he kept saying it. And to me, that just didn't feel right. If anybody of y'all got kids and you ever see one kid hit another kid and you didn't see the second one hit him, but you see him hit him back, that's what that gave off to me. You know what I mean? It gave off the fact that we didn't see the first lick getting thrown, but we saw the second lick getting thrown. And then we saw the overreaction or the overcorrection in that particular situation. So my whole thing is this, that I don't expect a 14-year-old, child to fight a man, but I would have rather seen him try to at least wrestle the man to the ground or throw his body or get him between the man or whatever. But to pull out a gun and to shoot somebody, now his little daughters don't have a daddy. If they had been, hand to hand, it'd have been a different story. But we like to, romanticize, ending people's lives like it's a good thing. You can't bring people back. I'm not justifying what this man did was wrong. I'm just saying the level of violence in return was off. You don't go from fighting to I'm just gonna shoot you. You know what I mean? What are you doing? And not only that, who's to say that the guy didn't have a gun and he would have shot her and the little boy and anybody else up in there?
Yeah.
Somebody should have said something besides letting it escalate to that point. It's cool to say what we just said in hindsight, but normally all that little boy had to do was stop between that man and his mama if he really wanted to help his mama, and she wouldn't even never got hit. That's how I look at it. But that ain't what we got right now. We got a man dead. Them folks got in and out of jail. It's political season. It looks good to let the mama defending themselves, get off, stand your ground. Yeah. All that looks good. But at the end of the day, somebody lost their life.
We've seen worse.
No, dude. He didn't think.
Oh my God.
He didn't think about his daughters when he decided to mollywop this mother. Okay.
Right.
And the thing is, we are not back in the day when fighting was fighting, and that is why people are getting shot. Because fights these altercations, they don't stop with just hands. Somebody's got to pull out a knife. Somebody's got to pull out a gun. That's why people are going to the extremes and shooting and stuff like that, because you can't trust people to be. No one's back in the day no more. That's the problem. Trust me, if people were still fighting, people would still be living.
I'm gonna just say this,
we're
bro.
Being threatened and stuff like that. You don't know what the other person has. You don't know nothing about the other person. So if you feel threatened, you got to pop off. It's a messed up situation that we're in. Very messed up. I wish we could go back into the time where we could just fight it off and wash our hands of the situation.
All I'm gonna say is this: if anybody decides that, well, my mom would put you off this planet herself, but like if I saw somebody hit my mom, you're gone. I don't care what I have. I will put you off this planet with my hands. I'm capable of doing that. You're done. If I have to put hands on you, period, I'm assuming that we are trying to end one another, somebody doesn't walk away from this because I'm too old and I've seen it too many times. I ain't getting shot at my car. It's not happening. That's the first thing. If you choose violence, choose all the violence. Like, I'm just saying, like, from the legal aspect, like, I think it's kind of weird what Chicago's doing with the law side of this. But, like, in all honesty, I have zero expectation of a 14-year-old child trying to fight a grown man. Period. Like, that's not, like, they ain't the same size. They ain't built the same. Like, this kid ain't fully got his balls dropped yet. Like, that's ridiculous. It's also ridiculous how good of a shooter he is. Like, I think that's kind of ridiculous too. Like, why we got child soldiers running around Chicago? I don't know. But he protected and did what he needed to do right by his family. Like, should there have been a man covering? Yes. Should it have happened, period? Absolutely not. I feel like there were probably at least as many forms of contraception as there are for women, options for that to not have happened. That's my thought process on it. I think there was a bazillion things. But you can't expect crazy to not be crazy. That man was disheveled, at least in the parts of the video that I've seen.
Yeah.
And this was over food. Also, this was in the hood over food. So, like, when we're talking about it, let's look at the whole thing and have an honest conversation. It's environment. That's just how those people are, and that's the reason none of us live there. If you don't have to, like, that's the reason people leave those environments, because you can run into a situation where you're doing what you're supposed to, and some idiot wants to put you in a situation where somebody got to go over food. What are we going to do when this goes the other way? Because this is going to keep happening now. What are we going to do when it goes the other way and the guy ends the mom and the kid? What's the conversation going to be then? Because you don't win all those altercations. It wouldn't have been hard for him to have been like that first pop turn, shove that body at that kid. Now you got both of them. You might not make it, but nobody does. What happens if it's a disheveled person who has training? What then? Now nobody goes home. What are we going to be talking about then? This is still going to be a tragedy. That's the thing that's important. Like, that kid was put in a situation to where he's done something that you're not going to come back from. But, like, from the looks of it, he's already done something he's not coming back from. And this is just another check on the list. This environment is toxic. This environment is killing us. This environment is destabilizing this country. Like, we can't keep doing this. Like, we can't keep arguing semantics about tragically toxic things that we are forcing people, that people are just having to live through. Like, people have to go through this. Like, we're pontificating about it. They live that experience. They're living in a situation that is akin to almost a third world country. That Chicago, that area that they were in, is worse than some second world countries. With worse people. And they live through that. Like, keep that in mind. Like, somebody had to live through that. And, like, honestly, I'm not worried about that dude's kids. If you out here hitting women, I hope you haven't bred, to be honest. Like, I really do. Like, if you out here just getting disheveled in places like that over food, that's on you, bro. Like, I got no sympathy for that family, because they made that. That environment made that. That family made that. That's on them also.
So let me jump in here, guys. So I agree with what you're saying, right, for the most part. So a couple things. Let's just anchor in this back in. Number one, men who don't manage their emotions are dangerous. And it's what we saw here.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at this from a critical perspective, anytime you're mad enough to fight somebody at a restaurant, there's some deeper issues going on there. There's something else is going on there. And if you don't tackle that, it manifests itself in some other way, right? And for his ego or pride to feel threatened and for him to respond this way, the truth is this could have been avoided if he would have decided to be a little bit different in the situation. Now, it's difficult, it's hard saying this because he lost his life. But I think this speaks to the reality of men. We don't have the luxury of understanding when we have a bad day or something's going on in our life and we pop off. We don't have the luxury of getting the understanding of the world. It might cost us our life. And this is why I asked the question earlier about is part of the reason men don't know how to handle their emotions because they don't know how to embrace them. They don't know the full range. And I think we saw this here. The second thing is the kid is at no fault in this situation at all.
Right.
Any son that loves his mother with a gun or without is going to do something to protect her. And if he can't, it'll haunt him for the rest of his life. That's any son that's going to happen. But the third part, and I think the other critical part is this, is that while it was the man's fault, it's his entire fault. He could have controlled himself. Ladies, sometimes you can save lives by being quiet. And I think that we don't know how to de-escalate. Sometimes letting people be a fool by themselves, and if this means you walking out the store, let him get his food and then you walk back in. It could save lives. So the man is his fault. But there is some level of responsibility that we have when we stay in a situation that is escalated that could do some harm to either ourselves, to children, or to other people involved. All right, I'll wrap up there. Any final thoughts on this?
I think everybody, all the speculating that we're doing, I think everybody's right. That situation did not start at 100. It got turned up to 100.
Yeah.
What we've seen started off as a disagreement between two individuals. At that point, everything that everybody's spoken on could have been implemented. Anything that anybody posited could have diffused that situation. The question is, how did it get to 100? And I feel like that goes back to the environment and that culture.
Yep. So, all right, guys. Well, we're gonna wrap up here. I brought up this show because, when I hear a lot of people talk about it, it's like, well, he just put hands on her. You know what I mean? It shouldn't have escalated. But here's my perspective. You've got a fully grown person.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what a person is capable of.
Right.
So the way we diffuse this is let's be adults here. There should be no escalation over words. But you put your hands on somebody, what do you expect to happen? You understand what I'm saying? So I think, again, this was his fault. Is as ugly as that sound, it could have been resolved. Number one, him controlling himself. And if he had a girlfriend egging him on, well, this just contributes to he didn't have any control over his own emotions. And it ended up costing him his life. So it was definitely his fault. And I'm very sorry that this happened. But I think we've got to place the responsibility where it needs to be, and that's on him. But with that being said, to add fire to an already heated situation, lady, don't add any more fuel to that. Your words at the point where somebody is already at an escalated place, and you see that, you got to learn how to back away. It's better for you to go home safe and sound than for you to win an argument and it end up causing somebody to lose their life or causing you some harm.
Yeah. Back to when you our conversation earlier when we were talking about people talking in circles and all that stuff. It's like I had to realize once I said what I had to say, and I wanted to not repeat myself because that gets annoying. I had to accept the fact that I do not have to have the last word. When you figure that out, man, the peace you will feel. Because you don't have to have the last word. Let them talk by themselves. And you just chill. Just
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all. So I think this is a good show. This was intense. So we're gonna wrap up. So Latricia, I'm gonna save you for last. Again, thank you for coming here. I really appreciate you. Embrace the grace. It's good to have you. Lola, I love you on the show. Beautifully animated. You already know what time it is. Reckless, but you already know. Lost in Turn. We already know. This is a really good show, guys. Really tough to talk about it, but I think we've all gained from each other's perspective. So, because I want to provide a solution, I'm going to ask, how do we start to de-escalate situations and resolve conflict? Let's give us some advice. What would you say? We'll start with embrace the grace. In situations, not even just this is extreme, how do we resolve conflict and de-escalate when we've seen it rise into a place of a potential danger? What's your thought on that, embrace the grace?
You're muted. You're muted.
She has a delay.
No, she was
I've
also muted. Okay.
I've had to learn and master the skill, and therefore everything doesn't require a response.
Yep.
So when you see something escalating, things are going sour, and it's going to put your life in danger or your freedom in danger, it's just walk away. It's not worth it. It's not, your life is not worth it. Your freedom is not worth it. So my main thing that you can take away, what I'm trying to say right now, is sometimes no response is a response. We don't have to play Frogger all the time and leap at everything. We do have to
Yeah.
be the bigger and better person sometimes, and just embrace that and walk away gracefully. And that's it.
I see what you did there, Grace. I see what you did there, Embrace. I like that. Was dope. I see the market in there. I like that. I like that. Beautifully animated speaks. What's your final thoughts as well? So in terms of like de-escalating, in terms of de-escalating, and we see a situation going there in personal relationships and family and friendships. What steps do we take to resolve conflict in a healthy way?
I try to avoid it as much as possible. I don't have the patience or temperament for it. No, I don't. So it's just best not to get involved if possible. And like I said, I'm 5'2". So yeah, I'm not trying to put my stuff in those situations. Um, so let's see. Say what you gotta say, mean what you say in that order. Don't cut people off. It's rude and it's disrespectful and it's annoying as hell. And you do not know what the other person is trying to say until they finish saying what they have to say. And you don't have to have the last word. I mean, really, what people get in the habit of doing is repeating themselves to ensure themselves that the other person understands what they are saying. If you keep it simple, like you've said this in the simplest way possible, and that person don't get it, it probably wasn't something meant for them to get. just just let it go. You said you said your piece. Now let it go. Move on. Tell the other person to Google it for better understanding. You know, use the dictionary to find some words or something. But you be done with it. So that's all I gotta say.
Excellent. Lola, you're a very reasonable person. Very, very, very logical. In a situation like this, like again, we can we can pontificate, we can think about, we can have perspective on the situation, but in real life, when we see things like this, we take something from it and we end up educating our children, the people we love.
Mhm.
So with this situation, how do you promote the ability to handle conflict, to resolve it, and to de-escalate when something is becoming more fiery? Whether this is an argument with your spouse or your family, a conflict, how do we better use conflict resolution skills to avoid situations like this?
I think we can talk about conflict resolution between strangers and respecting the street and just kind of being s- socially savvy. We can talk about that, right? But I think everyone's seen the tape, right? And everybody kind of knows you put your hands on somebody, anything can happen. However, there was something that happened a little while before that plays into this in terms of the lady who with the football player that got cheated on, and then she called her brothers to come and literally shoot his stuff up, which was what was in the text. Her brothers came, and one of her brothers never left that ground. Now, I want to say, as women, we need to teach our daughters, because like we're the elders now, that don't call my man or my son to come handle your business unless your life is in danger. If your life in danger, literally like you're gonna die, definitely call. That's what men are for. But if you call because you're emotional and you just want to prove to somebody that you can get somebody else to step in and quote unquote handle them on some, you just got some ego
Petty.
thing going on. Listen,
Yeah.
if my son or my man or my father or my nephew or my cousin lose his life over you, now you got me to deal with. And trust me, I ain't no snitch. So just don't do that. And I think this is good for us because as women, we need to really, because I can't check men on what men need to do to, you know. But for women, look, if your life in danger, protect yourself. If you need to call a man, even if it's your son, because sometimes our sons has had a household in our house. Like sometimes that's what it is. If you need to call your son when it's absolutely necessary, not if it's not. Because there was been times a woman probably called her son and he died messing around with dumb stuff. But this is the problem. So now that we got an example right here that the whole world is saying, okay, this should be going forward what everybody knows. Do not do unless you want to die. Like if you want to die, go ahead and do it. But if you don't do that. And as a woman, I tell another woman, don't think you can't get got sending one of mine into war knowing they're gonna die like that. Don't think I won't come for you. Like for real. Like don't do that. But men can speak to what men can do to better de-escalate. That's the one thing in this circumstance I can say because there was a similar situation that just happened like a couple days before. That kind of similar plays into the whole, do you need a man to step in or not, and how do you figure that out as a woman? But that's what I would say as far as like de-escalating. Know when to call a man, because sometimes y'all don't need to call a man, you just need to take your selfie and leave. That's what you need to do.
Good stuff. I will say it. Reckless Ray, de-escalation. How do we leverage those skills more and avoid situations both like this and then, less extreme situations in everyday life?
We need to start looking at people, specifically people that look like us, like the humans we claim to be. We need to start looking at people that look like us, like the humans that we claim to be. We need to see that these people have places to go, understand that like, hey, maybe this guy's having a bad day. We need to understand that when these situations get to a certain level that sometimes you're going to cross a road that you can't come back from. It's real hard to get back to the shoulder of the road from the middle of a 5-lane highway. Stuff's happening now. Decisions are being made at fast pace that are going to result in either you not making it home or somebody else not making it home. We've got to start being able to assess what's worth going to that level. Some glizzies at 11 p.m. really don't strike me as something that is worth putting somebody off this planet for. Whenever you get through it, we have to start looking at people as humans. And one of the things that, and I'm not a big on the victim Olympics, but one of the things that systemic racism has done to us and our culture has done to us is made us not see value in our own lives, the lives of people who look like us, that share our complexion. We get ourselves up out of here quicker than anybody else because we don't see value. We do not see other humans. And until we start looking at that level, it's going to be real hard to teach conflict resolution to people that are looking at just something like that you're going to get up out of here. We're people. The people who look like us are people too. Everybody's trying to get somewhere. And I understand it's real easy to look through your own peer view and worry about where you got to go. But just think about it like you driving on the highway. Every single other person on that road's got somewhere to get to as well. When people get too selfish, accidents happen. And then somebody who was speeding, cutting through traffic all over the place ended up getting yeeted off this planet because of an accident they caused on the way to Walmart. We've got to start looking at things from a holistic perspective, and we have to start that viewpoint. When you see somebody that looks like you, understand that that's a person that's also going somewhere just like you are.
Excellent. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Lost in translation. It's on you, man. Conflict resolution. So we deal with conflict every day. And I'm saying this because even though this was an extreme situation, if you really step back and think about your own personal lives, if you've been in a relationship, chances are you guys have had arguments that escalated that didn't have to. If somebody would just listen better or walked away or took a break. So how do we start leveraging in real time? Because it's good to theorize about it and talk about all the good points, but in practice, how do we leverage conflict resolution skills in our everyday life?
Here's my thing. Conflict resolution is only as good as those who participate. And I'll say it like this. There are a lot of times where men are saddled with being the leaders. They're saddled with being the level-headed ones. They're saddled with the responsibility, the burden of proof. A few summers back, we had a bunch of guys for no fault of their own leave this earth by the police. You know what I mean? No matter what they did, they could have had their hands on the steering wheel. They could have let the police know, hey, I got a gun. They could have been walking home from school with Skittles. It really don't matter. We're the ones who saddle with the responsibility. But my thing is this: we need all participants at the table. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be just men knowing what to do. It should be women knowing what to do as well, too. And in this particular situation, femininity could have saved this situation. And I'll give you an example. He was telling her, hey, get your food and leave. Well, she could have said, baby, you know what? It sounds like you're hungry. You go ahead. Y'all go ahead and fix his plate because he seemed like he's having a hard day. Femininity could have saved that particular situation, but it didn't. You know what I mean? We had one lady saying, egging him on, and another one telling the other guy, go get the gun. Femininity failed that day. You know what I'm saying? But until we actually bring masculinity and femininity to the table and everybody learns how to conflict resolution, that's the only time we're going to get good. Now, I get tired of making excuses for people always putting the blame on men, but women, we need y'all to woman up. Y'all are good at saying men need to man up, but today you need to hear this from a man. You need to woman up. It's time for y'all to start being feminine again. We missed that. We need that. The world needs that because it brings out something special in us. And I really would like for y'all to do that a little bit more. Lost in Translation podcast. Y'all have a good evening.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. So, Latricia, I'm going to give you the final thought. Again, everybody, to those of you who have not yet followed Lost in Translation, Reckless Ray De Niro, Latricia, Miss O'Shun, beautifully animated speaks and Embrace the Grace. Our moderator, shout out to the Quiet Storm. I mean, just be in there, just getting it in. So shout out to you, man. Thank you so much for all you do. The links have been dropped to everybody's information. Please take some time and subscribe to everybody on here. Want to run them numbers up. They've got great perspective. Latricia, I'm going to give you the last final thought. In terms of in real time dealing with conflict resolution and really leveraging that skill, how do we do that today to de-escalate situations or to avoid them altogether?
I think if we breathe and really think about, is this a situation that my adrenaline needs to respond to or not? I think that would help a lot, because when people are talking to you a certain way, like your adrenaline start rushing, you're not talking to me. And naturally, like, whether it's the situation at the hot dog place, your significant other, like whomever, nobody wants to be spoken to a certain kind of way. So when your adrenaline starts rushing and you're speaking out of that, like, you can't take those words back. You can't take those actions back. So just thinking about, like, if somebody is having an emergency on the side of the road and my adrenaline is rushing trying to open that door, that's appropriate. My adrenaline rushing because we're having an argument and I don't believe you should be, like, that's not an appropriate time to let it respond. So I just think, honestly, if you breathe and when you take that breath, take a long, deep one and think, like, should my adrenaline respond to this or not? Because ultimately, what decision you make after allowing your adrenaline to respond, you can't go back and change that.
I'm so glad you said that. That is so true, because I've always dealt with anger issues, whatever, and one of the things I had to learn was the fight or flight, and that's literally because you're not breathing properly. You know what I'm saying? You got the adrenaline pumping, and you're just like you're it's like you're holding your breath to keep from reacting, but that's like feeding into the fight or flight because you're not breathing properly, right? And the slow inhale and exhale, controlling your breathing makes so much difference. So yeah, I'm so I'm so glad you brought that up.
So I'm going to say this, and we're going to wrap up really quickly. This is why it's important to bring masculinity back. There was a time when, I know we don't like to talk about how it used to be. You know, we typically hear this ain't 1952 anymore. Well, let me tell you something that you didn't see commonly back then. Is men weren't just going off on their women. It was a time where women could say stuff, and a man would just write it up that's just women being women. And there was a restraint we had for ourselves. Even deeper than this, we respected our women to such a degree where if we saw a woman in danger, she didn't have to go call anybody. She didn't have to go tell her son to go do anything, because there was such a deep respect for femininity that if something was being done to hurt that, men would step in. I don't got to know you. Don't got to know where you're from. We ain't got to be related. Don't have to be the same skin color. A woman is being hurt, and so it's the man's job to protect women, and so they kick in. This is why it's important to bring masculinity back, because part of masculinity is protection. But that masculinity was underpinned by the respect of femininity, because women understood the power and the strength that men possessed. So I think that the way we handle conflict is by allowing men to be men in the full range of that, and women respecting men being men. And then the final thing is knowing when to back down. Sometimes we too big headed. Our pride is too big. Our egos are too inflated. It's not worth you winning the argument or the moment if it's going to cost you your life. I think the final part is we got to get back to a level of respect. I've got to respect Latricia just because she's a person. I've got to respect Miss Oshun because she's a person. Beautifully animated speak because you're a person. Embrace the grace because you're a person. And then let me sound a little chauvinist, because you're a woman. And men treat women a certain way. I can't deal with you the way that I deal with Lost in Translation or Reckless, because the way I handle my brothers is not the same way we deal with our women. The way I talk to my bros, it's not the same way I talk to my women. I think when we get back to this, I think some of this stuff goes away. Any thoughts on that?
I agree, Sir Hal.
I like it, and I think that both has to work in tandem, and both. Like it can't just be guys are doing okay in society, nothing's affecting them, and negative. Let's all work on women. It has to be both, and I think this was unfortunately we might have need to see something as blatant as this for everyone to kind of get a reality check and say, okay, let me do this next time if I think I'm in that situation, and vice versa for everyone else. But definitely, like I like being treated a certain way by men. Obviously, my father grew up in the 40s, so he treat me a certain way. But he expects me to act a certain way too in the street. And he told me once, and my father's always slightly inappropriate. He's like, listen, I'll come with a sawed off for anybody putting their hands on you. But he told me, if I find out you had your hand even near someone's face, not on their face, but near their face, he was like, I'm gonna put my sawed off back and I'm gonna yank you up in the street. Okay, okay, all right, I got you. So now I keep 50 feet.
Right,
But
keep your hands to yourself.
right, keep my hands to yourself. And that's what he told me. And he said, I'll go up on the farm for real.
Shout out to your dad.
That's it. My dad, he old school, but I mean, that's the truth. He expects me to act a certain way, and he's gonna come with his life, but he don't want to do that. And I'm now, granted, he probably still would, but he would probably deal with me very harshly under the circumstances. So, and that's a dad-daughter relationship. So, in a communal circumstance, I think we all can afford to act just slightly different, just for the sake of everybody else's safety. Yeah, just because I mean, I could pop off. I'm a person, right? I'm not perfect, but in circumstances like that, I I kind of get a little bit more patience, just a little bit more. But then it's like at some point, if it all goes to he double hockey sticks, I'll wait to the second before I pop off. Not 10 minutes before, but a second before. That's about it.
Extra guys. So if you guys can stay back, anybody who can stay, y'all know how we do. Please stick back for a bit. I'm going to wrap up the show really quickly. Everybody in the chat, show your love for all of our guests, for Lost in Translation, for Reckless Ray, for Miss Oshun, for Beautifully Animated Speaks, for Embrace the Grace, and for Latricia Renee. Appreciate you guys. Again, if you can stick around, please do. All right, guys, that was a really good show. I want to show some love to Rush. He sends a $5 super chat. He says the man overreacted. He needs to control his emotions. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Really appreciate you, man, and looking forward to doing some more work with you again very, very soon. Dr. Nakambe, good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for being here. He says, embrace the grace. Miss Oshun, Beautifully Animated Speaks. Thank you for allowing the space for the pushback on your points and for expressing yours about this sensitive topic. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Of course, we've got work to do as well. Everybody, this show was important because we have lost our way as a society. And we can keep on doing these shows about women are wrong, men are not men need to lead, women need to be feminine. But the root of all of this is we have lost genuine respect for people and for life itself. In situations like this, somebody has to be a winner, somebody has to be a loser. And we don't see how our decisions today are shaping what happens tomorrow and the world we're creating for the youth to live in. And so my request for everybody is, before you escalate a situation, whether this is with your husband or your wife or with your children or family, take a step back. A lot of times you are responding to the person you're with, but you're not really responding to them. There's some other stuff that's going on, and they just happen to be the firecracker that makes you pop off in that situation. You taking a few seconds to think about your actions could literally save not only your life, but those around you. So let's get back to a level of respect. Let's save some lives. It is too many good women and good men out here for us to be this broken. So let's do better, because I know we can. Until next time, everybody, it's been a great Super Sunday. Much love to you. You guys have a fantastic night. We'll talk with you again soon, and we'll see you back again, this time again next Sunday on Super Sunday. Peace. May I have your attention? May I please have your attention? Super Sundays. Yeah, baby. We're back at it again. Let's get it.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Let's get it. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Sir Hill Speaks Super Sundays. I'm glad that you're here. I wanted to take a moment to tell you guys how much I appreciate you. We've been doing these shows for months now, and you guys have been showing up consistently as we take on and we tackle different challenges and different topics. So I appreciate it. But here's what we're trying to do going forward. We want to grow this audience to people who need to hear content like this. And so we need your help. How can you help us? That's a fantastic question. Be sure to make sure you hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell for all of the content that we have, particularly Super Sundays. All right, guys, sit back, relax, enjoy. Make sure you invite somebody to Sir Hill Speaks Super Sundays. We're getting ready to go in. We're going to have a good time. Happy Sunday, everybody. Let's get to the show.